Welcome into the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. Got a really good show today, folks. Interesting timing today. We're right at the new year, New Year's Eve to be exact. And President Biden did something very interesting last week. He sat down and pardoned all but 3 death row inmates. Not a full pardon. He just simply said they're being busted down to life sentences. Interesting argument in our country's history. The death penalty has always been something that's been rather controversial, I guess, if you want to put it that way. But in this case, we're going to go over one of the most notorious serial killers of all time, one that in the Midwest here gave us absolute nightmares, one that, if you're a fan or not of clowns, probably set you back when you went to the circus. Talking, of course, about John Wayne Gacy. Now, keep in mind, his character Pogo had nothing to do with what he did as far as killing. But Pogo has always been tied to these murders. My guest today, John Borowski, has produced a miniseries called The John Wayne Gacy Murders, Life and Death in Chicago. It is probably one of the most comprehensive miniseries or comprehensive journals of the murders and even his incarceration I think I've ever seen. I mean, we've had Karen Conti on the program with her latest book, really detailing his post-incarceration or his incarceration post-arrest. But we really haven't had a good look at his life before, his killing spree, and his incarceration post-arrest, and had it all put together, and even had a good look at the victims and this shockwave that's happened all the way through this wave of destruction that Gacy has caused, and gotten it from the people actually involved in this wave of destruction. John's done a thorough job all the way through. I want to bring John in now, and let's get this program started. John Borowski is a award-winning independent filmmaker and author whose film works have garnered international acclaim and are distributed internationally on DVD, television, and streaming. John's historical horror trilogy of documentary films focuses on late 19th and early 20th century serial killers. After receiving his BA from Columbia College's Chicago film program, John freelanced as an editor and cinematographer. Director Willie Laszlo chose John to edit every headlining film for the Chicago Short Comedy Film and Video Festival from 1999 to 2003. In 2004, John's independently produced film H.H. Holmes, America's First Serial Killer, was distributed on DVD in North America. For the voice of the narrator, John chose Tony Jay, who's the voice of villain Judge Claude Frollo in Disney's Hunchback of Notre Dame. John's also gone on to do The Strange Case of H.H. Holmes, which is an illustrated book published by him containing 3 primary source books about the Holmes case and Holmes' complete confession. H.H. Holmes has been distributed to over a dozen countries worldwide. Now, after disappearing for over 25 years, Dennis Rader, the BTK murderer, resurfaced in 2004 after sending letters to the Wichita Press. In that, BTK was familiar with other serial killers and had mentioned H.H. Holmes in his writings. Of course, Dennis Rader, the BTK murderer, was apprehended in February of 2004. Now, John relocated to Los Angeles in 2005 for 4 years, where he produced that second film, Albert Fish, In Sin He Found Salvation, which has been called one of the most disturbing films ever made. For Fish, John interviewed artist Joe Coleman, and had a tour of his famous auditorium, that's ODD Auditorium, in Brooklyn, New York. Also in 2005, John served as associate producer of the British television documentary production Murder Hotel. Albert Fish was released on DVD in 2007. The world premiere screening was held at the historic Vine Theater in Hollywood. At the New York screening, John met the Italian distributor for Gargoyle Video, who agreed to distribute Fish in Italy. Uh, John relocated then back to Chicago in 2009. He also, uh, in 2010, started getting involved in numerous projects, including Murderabilia and True Crime Collecting, which is published in the UK, and the documentary movie making course. He's got other projects as well. We'll have a link in the description of this program to his website so you can check out those projects because they're chilling, they're fascinating, they're famous as well. He's been involved in many film festivals, also having stuff to do with Ed Gein as well. Gein is one of those cases, John. And welcome in, John Borowski.
Thank you. Thanks, Tim, for having me. Yeah, a lot has happened since, I do have to update that bio because that was pretty thorough, but kind of goes back to like whatever when I started, in the industry. And since then, I've done these documentaries on Albert Fish and Panzram and the TV show. But yeah, Ed Gein is interesting because of course now, Ryan Murphy is making these shows
Yeah.
such as the Dahmer Show, and he's doing Ed Gein, and which is great for me, because I also write and publish books on these cases, and I have a book called The Ed Gein File.
Mhm.
And what that is, that's Gein's interrogation and confession. So with my books, people could read the actual words from these killers or the actual investigative reports, such as my book on Gacy, Hunting a Predator. It has all the Desplains investigative files in there. So you're reading the excavation of the bodies. You're reading about the evidence taken from Gacy's house. And I think people appreciate that. And it's great for research as well. It's interesting because recently I was some two people reached out to me and they said, oh, they were doing research on Ed Gein, but of course they didn't want to tell me they were working for Ryan Murphy. I'm like, well, come
Oh,
on, I kind of know you are,
yeah, yeah, yeah. You can't hide that kind of stuff. That's
Yeah, so it's interesting. It's always interesting, having to do with these serial killers and the industry. But to me, it's really the journey, meeting these people, like the two officers who arrested Gacy. I mean, they put the handcuffs on him, and nearly everyone in my miniseries, other than a few people, actually met Gacy. They were his friend. They worked for him. They prosecuted him. They arrested him. So I wanted to make sure, and I got like I think 25 people together because a lot of these people were still in the Chicagoland area, the investigators, and whoever's left from investigating the case.
let's talk about that, John. And let's get down to the nuts and bolts of this because when you're talking about some of the people involved here, and some of the people that you have to go back in history, because this isn't like this happened 10, 20, 30 years ago, right? These are crimes that, and you're talking about, I mean, you don't just go back to the Chicagoland area, you go back to stuff that happened in Iowa, you go back to stuff that happened early in Gacy's history. So I mean, you dug, my friend, you dug deep.
Yeah.
And and to do that, I mean, the amount of research you had to do, the amount of chasing down you had to do, and then to get these people on camera and say, well, you know, do you think we can get these stories and get and then to have them say, sure, not only sure, but the amount of, I mean, we're talking 8 hours of miniseries here. So there's not, and I have to ask you this question. I know I'm rambling a little bit here, but how much is left on the cutting room floor?
Well, there's a lot, and I'm glad, you appreciate that because you're in the business, you understand radio and film and music and how all this works. And that's why it was a 5-year journey. And, then COVID happened, so that slowed it down. But it was, I committed to it, but little did I realize that when I started attempting to make a movie, which would have been 90 minutes, 120 minutes, that it, blew up to this miniseries of 8 hours because I figured, why not? Why not tell this whole story from when he was born until today, covering all these conspiracy theories as well? Because I had seen many documentaries and they would go back and forth. They wouldn't go chronologically. You would get kind of lost in the story, not knowing where you're at. And I wanted to show this progression so you could see how he was either created or, what created him or how he was formed. And, not many people know about his early life of, kind of abuse by his mother and father and, the Ohio incidences where he began his career of crime. But it was very difficult tracking down these people. A lot of them, because I'm a Chicago local,
Mhm.
that opened a lot of doors. I'm not a Hollywood guy coming in, doing this job and leaving.
Right.
I'm a Chicago native. I live here. I lived in LA for 4 years. But and there was a lot of access granted to me. There's the opening of the miniseries starts with the Morris Dam, where they found several of the bodies that washed up there. An interesting story is I went to the dam and I had my filmmaking equipment, my camera and tripod and everything, and I went in and I told them what I wanted to do to get footage. And they said, well, ask the lock master. And I did. And he said, okay, just get your stuff and come back. And when I came back, they had a cart there and they drove me all the way right on top of that dam. Now, they wouldn't do that for Hollywood. I mean, they knew, okay, here's this little guy, and it's not really, I mean, little guy, but you know what I mean. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
have $1 million budget. So
yeah.
it was like, th doors opened for me for that reason that wouldn't have opened for Hollywood, and people knew that I was a Chicago and they trusted me and they gave me some of this information that Hollywood doesn't know or they would never know. And and again, when I make my productions, I put care in it, and I want to make sure I leave no stone unturned, so I get those definitive answers. An interesting thing is, there's several documentaries out on Gacy prior to mine, and one was the Netflix documentary. And I spoke with Marty Zielinski, who was Gacy's photographer, and he's in my documentary. And he
Yes.
said he went to the next Netflix interview, and he said they put him in a room with all this carpentry material. And he asked them, well, what's the carpentry material for? They said, well, you're a carpenter, right?
Mhm.
Netflix, how many billions did they make? And they couldn't even research to find out this guy was a photographer. It's
Oh my
like,
God.
and I take pride in that. And people know that's why. Like, I could back up everything in my films and my miniseries and my shows because, I would never put false information out there. Because also, several of these recent documentaries, they're going more into sensationalism. So they're saying, well, here's what could have happened. But by the end of this miniseries, we're not going to prove anything to you. Just it could have happened. And to me, I think that's an injustice to the people. You're going to watch something for hours, spend your time on it, and then say, that's interesting theories, but okay, and
Right.
um, but anyway, I probably got off the
No,
subject,
no,
but
no. You bring up Marty Zielinski, and there's something in the. I don't want to get too spoilerish about the miniseries, but there's one line that Marty says in the miniseries that's absolutely chilling. You know the line I'm about to say?
I think so. Yeah.
He
I
says,
think so.
"Why didn't he make a basically? Why didn't he make a swipe at me, or why didn't he try to kill me?"
Yeah, imagine that. I mean, imagine him or Anthony Antonucci, who, got the cuffs on Gacy and he went, and he got out of the cuffs and he was free and he continued to work for Gacy after that. But again, you're looking at the time period, youth, it's hard to say, oh, well, at 15, man, I would have called the police and I would have done these things. But, when you're a kid, he didn't think this boss, who's going to think your boss is going to kill you? I mean, seriously, it's just not a thought in your mind.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, there were many that, either escaped or, Gacy let go. And it's just, I don't know, and they must be living with this kind of, survivor guilt. But yeah, Zelensky, he was very interesting because he was one of the people that I wanted in the miniseries to tell us the truths about what Gacy's character was like, because we could read these books, we could read everything about the technicalities of the murders and how he killed them and how he strangled them. But I wanted to know, was he a pillar of the community? A pillar of the community? Was he just a bullshitter? I wanted to get down to the details because what I've read in books and what I've seen on documentary shows, and then I interview the real people, neither of them match. So some of the books said, "Oh, Gacy was homophobic," and then everyone I talked to, they said, "No, he didn't say anything like that.
No.
He just was like live and let live." So again, I wanted to have the real people who sat across from him, who met him and knew him, tell the audience, "Here's what he was like." The Hollywood, is going to tell you their story, but I wanted to tell again the real story.
Did you get a sense? Because I know from talking to Karen Conti, both on air and off air, um, did you get a sense from the people that you talked to that maybe there was a sense of self-loathing from Gacy, that maybe his sexual behavior, he had a bit of self-loathing, that maybe he, there's a secret side to him and he wanted to keep that secret. He never wanted that to get out, even posthumously.
Yeah, I think that was the majority of Gacy's life. He did have this self-loathing and self-hatred. Growing up in that home environment where your father, not only calls you dumb and stupid and pretty much hates you because you're kind of feminine and you're not playing sports, and your father's making jokes about gays and homosexuals, and then you have these desires and you feel bad, and then you're talking about the 1950s where everywhere you go they're talking bad about homosexuals. So he hated himself. He didn't fit in with the kids because his mother said, well, you've got a heart condition, and she wanted to keep him safe, but he didn't. And by doing that, it kept him separate from the other boys. So he didn't play those things. And thus that led to his part of his father's hatred for him. So, growing up in that environment and not being able to, where teenage boys, heterosexual boys may have been able to, fool around or have sex with females, he wasn't able to. So he had this built up repression inside of him, and that it slowly came out as rage and anger. And you see that in the miniseries, how it built up starting in Waterloo, because he wanted complete control over these victims. Because, he probably felt that that was the only way that he could do what he really wanted with them, sexually or, in an S&M way. Because you could see in Waterloo when he started chaining them up, he said, play dead, and he would come at them with a knife. So a lot of people don't know that about him, but we could get into that later too, where he did, have sex with some of their corpses as well.
Yeah, we will talk about that later. That's a little alarming as well. That came out as well in the miniseries. The other thing too, John, which fascinates me is the fact that you truly bring out the angel devil side of him. The fact that he really did have to balance the good and evil parts of him. He had to have a good side of him, no matter if it was in Iowa in public service, that he had to have some sort of public service, or he had to be part of the community. He had to show how good he was to somebody. He had to prove himself to somebody, whether it was his father, whether it was the community at large in public community service, whether it was to the first lady or the president. He had to prove to somebody that he was worthy. And then there was the evil side of him. So for every evil act he did, he had to come back and prove he was good. It was almost like there was a Gemini side to him, even though I don't believe he was a Gemini, right?
Yeah, I agree. And that's always the duality of serial killers. But and again, like when the FBI started profiling serial killers, they said, well, they usually fit one of these three triads. They wet their beds, or they start fires, or they're cruel to animals. But since then, we've realized that you have to study each serial killer on their own. You can't put this blanket over them, because some are sullen and quiet. Look at Dahmer. He would go in a bar and he would be quiet, and he would, look around. He would just sit there and be alone. Then you've got some like Carl Panzram, who is a, revenge killer, and he wanted to kill everybody that he saw for revenge of what happened to him as a child. And then you've got Gacy, who, knew that he had to be in the public eye. He made sure he was in the public eye, whether he was a clown or politics or taking food to the neighbors or inviting the neighbors over to his party in the backyard when there are bodies underneath the house in the crawl space. And I think that was Gacy's ultimate joy, that he knew he was always getting one over on people, that he knew, oh yeah, they're walking over the floor and there's bodies down there. He loved that, because even in prison later, he would joke about it. After he said, no, somebody else must have killed these bodies, he would always show a picture of him with balloons with 33 flavors, ice cream on them, and say, look at that balloon, the 33. What about that? He knew, and he liked to get that. And he would even chuckle about it. When you watch a CBS News clip with him on it, he laughs. He's like, you see that? I used to be a contractor for 33. See that? It's like, wow. He loved that. Ultimate con man. I mean, just as much as a con man as a serial killer, and many of them are,
Mhm.
because many of them aren't highly intelligent. And he wasn't highly intelligent. He knew how to con people, and he learned that in Waterloo. And that was part of his facade. And he knew, wow, because, when I mentioned to people I was making a miniseries on Gacy, they said, wow, he must have been a mean guy. I said, no, he was nice. Everyone loved the guy, but that's how he got away with it for so long because like Marty Zielinski says, oh, he would kid around with stuff and he could have told us hey, I got 40 bodies in my crawl space. We said, yeah, whatever, because nobody believed him. And
Yeah.
I think he knew if he kept saying these things and then like he told the cop, a clown could get away with murder. And it's like, wow, okay. He basically told me that he did this
Yeah.
before he was arrested,
The and there's so many different points to go back to here with what you've said, but the 33 alone, I want to address the 33 with you real quick here. As we're just a couple of minutes away from a break here, but with the 33 alone, I want to address the 33 because I believe it's brought up in the miniseries that not all 33 were essentially found. Is that correct?
Well, all 33 were found, but
Okay.
supposedly there was another one. There was a 34th that he said he threw over the bridge, but he didn't hear it splash. So he thought it got caught. The thing is, maybe it got caught on a barge, maybe it fell on a ship and got destroyed in the rotors, or who knows. So, we will never know if there was a 34th, but they did find all 33.
Okay.
And, again, was he planning that eventually to do that, right? To know, hey, if I get caught, I could say that who knows with this guy, you know?
Right. Karen Conti stated it on this show, and I believe she stated it in the miniseries as well. She believes there's more out there. Although to to try and to try and actually go out and open up case files, to go out and actually put that kind of manpower on it after all these years, I would think would be kind of fruitless, don't you?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the case is still open because they're still identifying, I believe, 4 or 5 more victims, and that's another story. But you're right, I don't see a reason for it other than maybe that Rainbow roller rink where they had found a couple bodies, after he had worked there. But see, in my mindset, I produced my miniseries with my study of serial killers, knowing their abnormal psychology, studying psychology, as well as studying Gacy. And when I put all those things together, to me, it would have been like H.H. Holmes throwing bodies all over the World's Fair. It's too obvious. I think Gacy learned from the Houston mass murders, where when they killed these boys, they put them in a boat shed under the dirt. Nobody would ever know they're there unless they dug in a boat shed. Who's going to dig in a boat shed?
Mhm.
So I think Gacy knew that he's like, I'm not everywhere. If he traveled everywhere, then there would be suspicion. There would be ways to track him down and say, okay, well, he was here, here, and here. But in my personal opinion, I don't believe he killed any more because he wanted to know they were where he put them, below his house or on his property, or those last 4 he threw in the river because there was no more room. That's how I think. I don't think he was this. I mean, he killed many, but I don't think it was like, oh my God, he had to kill every day or once a week, and then he's throwing bodies all over the place. He was too smart for that. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, of all the thing, I mean, eventually a serial killer wants fame and he wants to be known. I don't think he was one of those that wanted to be known. I think the act itself was more than enough for him.
Exactly. And like, the prosecutor, Bill Kunkel said he at the last minute when they said, hey, we'll give you a reprieve. We won't execute you. Tell us about more bodies. He didn't. And I think he would have wanted to boast. If he boasted about 33, he would have said, yeah, well, there's 20 more. Even before he died, he could have said, oh, guess what? There are 20 more. You'll never find them. But he never did. So to me, it makes sense to me that there aren't anymore. And, but it's like, Jason Moran, the commander of the case that's open on Gacy now, he said, aren't 33 enough? People always want more. You 40 years ago, you come forward now to this time period. Oh, there must have been more. And there's conspiracy. And he worked with these other guys and this happened. But, again, we may never know these things unless Mike Rossi makes a deathbed confession. But, we may never know. But, I feel that in episode 8 of my miniseries, through expert interviews, my knowledge of serial killers and the Gacy case, I presented what I feel about these theories.
Very much so. I think that's a good place for us to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about some of the unknowns about Mr. Gacy, and those unknowns being some of the more unknown things about his history. So when we do that, we'll do that with John Borowski. Uh, the miniseries is fascinating, folks. You can go out right now and watch it or rent it on Amazon Prime. The name of the miniseries is The John Wayne Gacy Murders, Life and Death in Chicago. It is an 8-hour miniseries and well worth the 8 hours. It's one of those things that I'm going to tell you right now, I sat down and watched it in one shot. I sat down and I was enthralled. The fact that it is comprehensive from beginning to end, from the beginning of John Wayne Gacy's life to the end, the very end, and covers everything, everything from birth to the killings to the victims to arrest to his life in jail to his attorneys, from police to attorneys to everything. There's everybody in this thing. And you get a full spectrum look at John Wayne Gacy. I don't think this has ever been done before, to be honest with you, and it's accurate. Everything about it is accurate. So, my a tip of my cat to you, my tip of my cap to you, John, as I stumble through it. But I encourage you to go out, and if you are, uh, I. I hate to put it this way because it's a little morbid, but if you're a fan of serial killers, if you're a fan of this type of true crime, this is it. I mean, this is what you've been looking for. So by all means, go to Amazon Prime and check this out. You can also, by the way, check it out by going to John's website. We have a link in the description of this program. That's another way that you can check out this miniseries as well. So when we come back, some of the more unknowns about John Wayne Gacy. When we come back on the best in true crime podcasting, this is True Crime Tuesday. Welcome back to the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. My guest is John Borowski. The name of the miniseries is The John Wayne Gacy Murders, Life and Death in Chicago. It's 8 hours of the most comprehensive history of John Wayne Gacy from life to death. I mean, it says it right in the title, right? Everything from the beginnings of John Wayne Gacy, the painful beginnings of John Wayne Gacy, all the way to his, well, let's face it, painful death. The way that Karen Conti put it when she was on this program, his end was pretty painful too. I don't think a lot of people know that, John. And let's start at that part as well. The way Karen put it when she was on this program, she put it like this. The way that he was put to death was not invented by a scientist. And there was a little bit of difficulty when Gacy was put to death. As she put it, there was a bit of a to-do or a hubbub as he was being put to death. And there's some difficulty behind the curtain. Can you explain to people what exactly happened at that point?
Yes. So Gacy was put to death by lethal injection, which means that there's usually a series of three different types of liquids that go through that eventually go into his vein and mix to make the lethal cocktail to execute him. The first one is usually like a sedative, and then the two poisons, start entering his system. Well, about 5 minutes, couple minutes into his execution, there was supposedly a problem with the line. Problem. They said, "Oh, there's just a problem." So, they took a break. When they came back, they finished the execution. So, there's a lot of question of, well, was that done on purpose? I don't believe anyone would ever do that on purpose. Let's just say that.
Yeah,
I don't believe
right,
that. But
right.
you know what I'm saying? It's like, so there could have been pain there at the end. I wouldn't doubt it. But what I found was very interesting is that, again, in my miniseries, I wanted to show another perspective. There's these victims' families, and a lot of people don't really know what the victims' families went through. Not only the hell of, knowing that their brother, son, husband, boyfriend was murdered by him, but the fact that they weren't even allowed to see him executed. Um, and that was very sad to me. I interviewed Eugenia Godzik, and she was Gregory Godzik's sister, who was killed by Gacy. When it came time to execute Gacy, Eugenia Godzik's mother had passed already, and she said, "Wow, my mom wanted to be there to see him executed, and she wanted to pull the switch." But what they did was, they had the viewing room for Gacy where you could watch his execution. Now that was press, politicians, attorneys, and then there was a lottery system for some reporters like Walter Jacobson. He got to see it. But then there was a whole nother room with the families of the victims, a room where it was just a room no windows, no view of the execution, only a phone in there and some hors d'oeuvres. And it's like, wow, when you hear the real stories of what the families went through, and supposedly, the city created a fund, or there's wrongful death fund that the city had at that time. And, when the victims' families tried to, claim that, they said, oh no, we're not giving out this to all these 33 families. It's a shame how they were treated too in the end. So again, there's pain on all sides here. The pain that Gacy went through and his family went through, but all these victims and their families. And like you said, that ripple effect. I mean, there were hundreds and hundreds of people involved in the case in the end. And that's the sad part about it. But yeah, he did, finally receive, it was, at Stateville Prison, he received, his lethal injection execution.
I would think if the families would have heard the words of Karen Conti, that maybe they would have smiled a little bit in a weird kind of way. Because the way that Karen described it to me was absolutely spine chilling. She said what happens is if the anesthetic doesn't come down the line, which it didn't supposedly when at first, the poison comes down the line, and literally that person is, because if they get just a little bit of anesthetic, it doesn't fully knock them out. I mean, they're out, but they're aware inside their own body. So then they start to burn from the inside and they're fully aware. But it's like that Metallica video where the guy's aware in his own body and he wants to scream but can't.
Yep.
She said that's probably the way Gacy went.
Yeah, and I worked at a veterinarian offices as a veterinarian tech for a while when I was younger, and that is how they do it. They put the sedative, and they are aware. They're aware. They're just very sedate.
Oh,
And yeah, and especially with the two different types of poisons, going into Gacy, I'm sure it was extremely, extremely painful. And, he couldn't obviously move or react in any way. So you
wow.
know and it's like, is that even, I mean, it's there's no way to, even cover the pain of all those 33 victims. And it's just
Right.
like I
Right.
said, it's sad all around, I mean. And for him, I am against the death penalty because I don't believe that it's, a deterrent. But for Gacy, I'd say that's definitely a person who deserved that for what he did.
When we talk about, and let's talk a little bit about how he put his victims down, because when you think about it, is it, is it a just way to go? I mean, let tell people about a little about how he would put his victims down, because it is a little barbaric.
Yeah, no, I mean, these people suffered, young boys, they really suffered. I mean, there were several survivors that had talked about what he had went through, and he would take them through a night of tortures, anything from dunking their head in a bath to drowning them to reviving them, choking them, reviving them. He loved, seeing the agony on their face. He was definitely a sadist. He loved torturing the victims. He would rape them with various, objects. Some victims were found with various objects in their mouth and their rectum. Some victims he would stuff paper down their throat or their underwear. Some victims would choke on that and die. Some, when he buried them in his crawl space, were still alive. So they all died in horrible, horrible ways, but most of them were strangled. He enjoyed using his first victim he stabbed, and that was a mess. So he didn't want to clean up messes. Gacy was a very tidy guy, very clean and organized. And he didn't like the mess. So he found that what was the best method of killing was just to take an ordinary clothesline rope, probably, I don't know, 12 to 36 inches in length, put it around their neck, and then make a tourniquet, put a stick into the tourniquet in the back of their neck and turn it until they were choking. And there was nothing they could do. If they were in handcuffs, which they usually were, he would trick them into handcuffs. There was nothing they could do. And he said some of the victims put the rope on themselves because they thought it was like an S&M trick. So they would say, "Oh yeah, okay, let me see how you do this." Because, obviously there are ways that, males can achieve orgasms, and there are choking, sexual choking ways that, some people have died and Hollywood celebrities have died that way too in the middle of that. So he would do that and they thought it was an S&M thing. But then when he would turn it, he said they would start choking, but they were reaching here. And there's nothing they could do there because it's tight back here, but they couldn't reach to do this. And by that time, 10, 15, 30 seconds, you're out of it and then you're dead.
And he would
Um,
think it was funny that all they had to do was reach back and just untwist.
yeah. Yeah. And they were going here. But again, in that moment, they're choking. They didn't know what they could do. And then they couldn't reach it. They were, it was awful abuse, rape, and painful ways to die. And then, he would just throw them down in the crawl space where he had young men dig these trenches. So there were already graves down there. So all he had to do was just throw them down in the crawl space, get down there, throw them in the hole, and put dirt over them you know and yeah, they suffered. It was awful, traumatic, painful deaths, and sometimes two at a time. There were these two young men where he had brought into the house, killed the one in the bedroom, and then brought the other one in and said, look, now I'm going to kill you. Look at your friend, he's dead, just like. And he got a gun. He got off on that. He enjoyed all of that. No.
See, so the little bit of burning at the end doesn't seem like it's all that bad.
Yeah,
You
right.
know,
Yeah,
makes
exactly.
you wonder if the guys at the jail were like, you know what? Yeah, if we hold back the anesthetic a little bit, it's probably not that bad of a deal.
Like I said, I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, from what I hear, the guards hated him. They didn't want to have anything to do with that. And then you look at 14 years on death row. It's, that again, that's he's a perfect example for someone who should have the death penalty because for 14 years he's on death row collecting a book this thick of all these pictures of his victims and their histories so he could look at it every day and salivate over these murders that he did. It was disgusting. And then he's painting pictures of clowns and things and, basic and death clowns basically saying, yeah, here's what I did. Now I'm making money off of it. I mean, it was really disgusting what he was doing, but he was the first serial killer entrepreneur celebrity running his business out of the jail cell, selling paintings, writing books, writing letters. He pretty much had his own fan club, and all these people from around the world were writing him, as we see now with Luigi Mangione. And it's you want to become famous in America, unfortunately, you have to kill someone or create a big crime, which is sad.
I, I hate to bring personal feeling into it right now, John, but I have to ask you, when you see Luigi Mangione, what kind of goes through your head? Is this Gacy to you all over again? I mean, mind you, he hasn't taken as many lives, but does the celebrity kind of turn your stomach?
Yeah, I mean, we shouldn't, hold these people up to pillars. And that's the thing, they talk about glorification. And many times when I'm at conventions, I'll give you one example. I was at one expo and at my booth, and, I have my books and my DVDs and posters. And then there was a time where a woman came up and she said, well, what do victims' rights advocates think about this? Well, she didn't come up to the booth. She was about 10 or 20 feet away. And then she just left. And then it's like, okay, if you want to stand here for 5 minutes, I could talk to you about that
Right.
because my films aren't about sensationalism. They're not about glorification. Glorification is, I would say, these guys are great. Look at, they were great people. No, they're disgusting. They are human beings in the end. They're not monsters. They don't turn into physical monsters. So I feel it's our job to figure out, why they became this way and possibly stop people like them in the future. But, if that woman wanted to talk to me, I know survivors. I know victims' rights advocates. There's a gentleman in Houston that, he's a victims' right advocate. I know survivors of the railroad killer, of Gacy. I've interviewed these people. So to me, it's about all those angles, the law enforcement, the victims' families, the forensics, and that's what I study. So it's not, oh yeah, I'm going to throw this Gacy or Richard Ramirez documentary out there and put blood and gore in it and just, salivate on that. No, it's not about that because I did see a show once on cable about Richard Chase who would drink blood. And they talked about the whole show about, oh, here's what he did and this is what he drank and but never once did they say he was schizophrenic, which is like, okay, this is important.
Right.
There are reasons. So again, to me, it's very, it's clinical, but I try and make it entertaining through my style, like docudrama style.
Absolutely. And the reason that this documentary is 8 hours long is because you do focus on each and every victim and you tell the story of each and every victim, which is important. It's humanizing the people that lost their lives and is in a way dehumanizing the killer, is showing you exactly what kind of monster took the lives of these very human people and bringing the humanity back into the victim, which is very important. And again, I applaud you for doing that.
Yeah, and that was a goal of mine too. I wanted to make sure that I did recognize every single victim. And I did that, every single one, even if it's just a card on the screen with their name, the date they went missing. I wanted to make sure I memorialized every victim. And then there were some victims which were kind of more key to the investigation, or at least, discovering that Gacy was murdering these boys. Gregory Godzik, of course, John Zick, who Gregory Godzik dug his own grave in the crawl space. Gacy had him dig his grave. It had him. He would tell them, "You're digging trenches for, issues, drainage issues."
Yeah.
So Godzik dug the trench the day before. Gacy murdered him and threw him in that trench that he dug. So again, it's just, I wanted to study several of those key people because obviously, I interviewed Godzik's sister and, again, to see how crucial they were to the evidence that was found later, when they went into the house. But yeah, that was the thing because, it's all important, it really is. And I didn't want to, I reached out to Eugenia Godzik because I had a contact that gave me that info. I did not bother any of the other families. I didn't want to
Yeah.
because they've been through this for the last over 40 years. I mean, I figured if they were interested, they would want to reach out, but I'm not going to hunt them down. I'm not going to hound them down. I'm not, a Hollywood. It's not about that for me. Again, it's about the real story and treating it with care.
And there's such a thing too, John, as you know, these people, as you put it, these people have been through enough, but there has to be a certain amount of healing that happens, right? The event is traumatic enough. It takes a certain amount of decades to start to heal that. And we're 40 years into it now. Generations pass. Time doesn't necessarily heal all wounds, but you get to the point where those families do need to start to move on and they memorialize that person, but the way that they went was so tragic that you're like, you know what, we do need to put it aside and we do need to move on with our family.
Yeah.
And if you come in, it is rather invasive, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And that's why I don't want, it wasn't my goal to show gore or the deaths themselves. It wasn't that. If anything, I show his methods technically,
Yeah.
I just have a reenactment of someone standing there and show the neck, but, I've seen some of those where they would show the gore, him on top of these victims. And there's no reason because I had actual documents. I had the actual people interviewed. I had location photos. I went to the locations that were still existing, and I figured, well, why should I fill this with all these reenactments when it's not going to really add much? Creepy little reenactments here and there, like Pogo walking down downtown Chicago, creepy with balloons, stuff like that for mood
Mhm.
or atmosphere. But you're right, and I definitely want to hear more of your thoughts on some of the unknown things about Gacy.
Okay, some of the unknowns. Let's get to that. The abuse. I want to talk a little bit about the abuse by mother and father. That to me was one of the things that stood out and kind of hit me. You think about the making of a serial killer. What makes a serial killer? Is it recently I was watching a Dr. Phil special from years ago where he was confronting Dahmer's father, and I mean he's right in his face and trying to make him realize that, you know what, you were the catalyst for Dahmer, right? And when you get the opportunity to look a man in the face and say, you know what, you kind of spurred this on, because he was talking to Mr. Dahmer about, when you're kind of taking the boy out to encourage him to kill animals and do the taxidermy thing, you don't realize that you're spurring on serial killer behavior.
Yeah, but it's not, but I'm sorry to interrupt you, but um yes, that is interesting too, but it's obviously the fact that, these parents, I mean, some of them I actually know what they're doing. You're right. And Dahmer's father with the taxidermy stuff, I think he thought, okay, yeah, my kid's interested in this. But beyond that, the neglect with Dahmer, and I don't want to talk too much about Dahmer, but I mean, his mother and father basically just felt he was non-existent. He felt he was non-existent,
Mhm.
because the father was always working. He didn't pay attention, probably never gave the kid a hug much or told him he loved him. He was out of his life. The mother was on drugs all the time, pharmaceuticals. So, here you have someone that, felt that they were extremely alone. And, he was left alone at 18 by his entire family. So you could see that. And again, maybe they were just living their lives and not realizing, well, uh-oh, it's too late. We should have given him more love and attention.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot too. And that's what happened with Dahmer. But with Gacy, it was different, and that's the thing with these serial killers. They're not all abused. They could witness a trauma. Something could be traumatic. Like I think with Dahmer, the trauma of his family leaving him alone at 18 to work and eat and take care of the house and do all these things, that was very traumatic for him. But for Gacy, it was definitely abuse. It wasn't neglect. If anything, it was oversaturation by the mother and the father. The father not only berating him and physically abusing him, but the mother, when he was first born, she was giving him uh uh I forget the name, but you put them inside your body for medicine. You put them in your anal area, rectal suppositories.
Positive
As
laxatives.
an infant, as a baby, she was giving him rectal suppositories of medicines. And then she started giving him all these medicines because in her mind, she thought something was wrong with him. But it was only in her mind, And Helen Morrison, who interviewed Gacy's mother, she's in the first episode and in the miniseries. And I wanted her to specifically talk about that. What was the mother's role in creating Gacy? And, giving him all these pharmaceuticals. And then when he's growing up, treating him and making him feel like he did have a health condition made
Mhm.
it worse for him. The Molly coddling by her, and then her advocating the father being fine by beating him and berating him because of that 50s mindset. The woman just has to shut up and the father does what he has to do, no matter if he beats the kid almost to death, which is sad, but that was how it was back then.
What shocks me is okay, so in most father son dynamics, there comes a point, and I shouldn't say all, but in most, there comes a point where a son rises up and challenges the father, right? Whether it be verbally, physically, whatever it is, and tries to show that he's at that point where he's independent. That I'm my own man now. I'm stepping up. I'm stepping out. You can't rule over me anymore. At what point does Gacy do that?
Gacy did that. I think it was when he was, I forget it was 18 or 19 or early 20s, but he left. His father had gotten him a car, but then to punish Gacy, the father would take parts out of the car so he couldn't drive it, like the carburetor, or he would disassemble something. Well, Gacy got tired of all that and tired of everything, so he just got in the car and drove to Vegas. I think there was an uncle possibly that lived out there that, he knew, and that was his escape. And he got a job at a funeral home transporting dead bodies to the morgue. And his mother said he, slept in the morgue with the bodies, with the dead bodies. And, that's a whole nother beginning aspect of Gacy that many people don't know about. They know about this incident at the funeral home or that he worked there, but then there's been many stories. Well, he may have supposedly one of the stories is somebody at work there found a corpse's clothes next to a casket that was opened. Supposedly Gacy got in with this young man. Gacy said one of these victims came in with an erection, which is called a death erection. If somebody dies traumatically or is hung, they may have an erection when they're dead. This could have been Gacy's fantasies. We don't know this. A lot of these serial killers say, yes, I read or saw this, but is it really just up here? And that's what I wanted to show a little in my mini series as well. But the fact is that Gacy, he himself said from a young age he was fascinated by death. And to me, it makes sense when you look at not only that funeral home incident, but when he's in Waterloo telling these kids to play dead, and then he's sleeping with some of the corpses later. It all makes sense that he wasn't a necrophiliac. He wasn't like a Dahmer, who Dahmer's goal was to kill them, basically, and then he had his fun. He
Right.
wanted them dead, and then he had his fun, where Gacy loved torturing them while they were alive. And then, okay, well, you know what? If I put them in the closet or under the bed, and no one, I might pull them out a day later and have sex with the body and then throw it in the crawl space.
Was it a was it a matter though when you think about it, John? Was it a matter of being able to play with your food, have it while it's there, and then experiment with it while it was dead, being able to see the metamorphosis, being able to see the light go out in the eyes, being able to experiment with it, to play with life and death. And to me, that's a domination thing. To me, it's
Yes.
over and over again. If I could have did this to dad, I would have been satisfied.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And it's about domination and control. And he's got he could do whatever he wants to them. And you're right. I think it all goes back to, I feel they talk about the, nature, nurture, and these reasons for serial killers for killing. Well, through my research, my personal theory is that it's the environment. Especially when they're in those formative years, if they're seeing these things or hearing these things, sure, it may not affect others. I mean, kids could be horribly abused and they turn out to be police officers, which I don't know about, but you know what I'm saying. If they're
Yeah.
good police officers, that's fine. But you know what I mean? A lot of people could be upstanding people, but it's because of certain people, how their brain interprets things and how they go about these things. And you're right. I think his whole life he was trying to, either appease his father or kill his father, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. If he goes into the community and does well, look, Dad, I did good.
Yeah.
If either that or he's trying to extinguish him through, albeit through other people,
Yep.
rather
Yeah.
than just stand up to him and knock his block off.
Yeah. And he never did, never did. Gacy had the freeze reaction. There's flight, freeze and fight. Well, he would just freeze. His whole life he did that. I have a police report when Mike Rossi beat Gacy up. Gacy called the police and there is a police report, but Gacy didn't do anything. He just stood there, you know, because of course he wanted to be in control. Once he had a young man in handcuffs, then he could be a real man. But other than that, he would never go up against another man. Never. And so, yeah, that was just his character.
Was that the same cop that claimed that he thought Gacy was attracted to him?
No, well, Mike Rossi worked for Gacy.
Oh,
He
okay.
was one
Okay.
of the workers.
All right.
Yeah. Oh, but that's another interesting story. Yeah. The cop, Mike Albrecht, when he was younger, he looked like Gacy's type that Gacy was attracted to. So, he had long blonde hair. So there is supposedly, which I've never found. No one's ever, it's probably still out there, but Gacy took a Polaroid picture of Mike Albrecht when he was bending over to see his backside. And
Yeah.
even Mike Albrecht to this day is like, yeah, there's a picture out there of that somewhere. I think he says it in the miniseries.
Yeah.
And a lot of these things in the story too, they're so absurd when you look at these things. And it's like I liken it to Goodfellas. Like, Goodfellas is a a scary, tragic, a gangster movie. But when you see it with a full audience, it's a comedy. It's an
Right.
absurd comedy that
Right.
they're having dinner while there's a body in the trunk. It was the same thing for Gacy, and you're not laughing at this. It's just this crazy absurdity that this guy loved and reveled in this stuff while all this was going on.
One of the things that Karen Conti told me, I think was related to you in the miniseries as well, and that is when you went to visit Gacy in jail, he would get you lunch, but the way they got lunch was to take it away from two other prisoners. So, I mean, if you had two with you, if it was you and if it was Karen and her law partner, well, then two other prisoners had to give up their lunch, and he would always tell you it was the worst prisoner in the yard who gave up his lunch. And then they'd wink at you, as to make it seem like you were giving up. You owed something to the worst prisoner in the yard.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing, and Karen Conti says that he was a funny guy. A lot of people don't like to hear that, but that's again how he conned people. He wooed them in, he made them feel comfortable, and then he did his thing, and I was to me, episode 7, which ends in the execution, but before that, it's kind of hilarious when you see all these things. The heavy metal guys, Macabre, who are going to visit Gacy and buying paintings off of him, and Gacy threatening the warden that, you better let me sell my paintings or I'm going to the ACLU, which he did once. It's like, wait, how? And then Gacy changed prison policy because they would charge the inmates uh, less for photocopies than the people on death row. So Gacy wrote the warden and said, this isn't right. So they said, you're right. We're going to change it. He changed prison policy. Again, what? You hear these stories, you're like, and I wanted to do that too. It wasn't my intention to, oh, what, things don't people know that I can expose in this? No, I mean, I wanted to tell the things that I knew about that everyone knows about Gacy, but these other things that are just as important and add to that story of understanding his life and the crimes. And you could study the miniseries from a trial point of view because everything that happened in his trial, child psychology, forensics, and that was another intention of mine. So this could be used in classes in the future to study these cases of how they were, investigated back then versus now.
There's an interesting chapter in Karen's book where she's representing Gacy's sister because Zach Bagans wanted to buy Gacy's brain.
Yep.
It was on the auction block, and Gacy's sister finds it an affront that Zach wants to buy the brain. So they fought it, of course. But I had asked Karen, do you really think Gacy would have been pretty much just offended that his brain would have went to the haunted museum in Vegas? She goes, "Oh no, he would have loved it. He would have loved the attention. He would have loved the fact that people would have come to see his brain. He would have thought that was great."
He would have. He told his second wife that one day she's going to read about him on every newspaper, on the cover of every newspaper. He was reveling in it when he was in prison. He was just loving it because finally he's the big man that his father always wanted him to be. Here now, I'm the big guy, right? And he just loved it, smiled all the way through prison, I'm sure.
And Zach was offering a lot of money for that brain, so I'm thinking, why wouldn't his sister do it?
Yeah,
What was the big
yeah.
affront, right?
Yeah. Well, the brain initially Helen Morrison had it because, Gacy's family willed it to her.
Mhm.
And yeah, and then the brain, was given back to Gacy's family. So that's pretty interesting, that journey. But another interesting thing too is, you probably a whole documentary could be done on Gacy's death certificate. Is that the right time of death? They say he was cremated and signed off on, but he wasn't. He was buried. So these are things that I've discovered that I've never heard of in my life. And when I was producing my miniseries, I had questions. And at the time, I went to the experts who I had known were Gacy experts. And through all my research, I said, well, there are these two things that I don't understand or I can't find. They didn't know about them. They didn't know they existed. So I said, okay, well, now I'm becoming the preeminent Gacy expert in the world because I don't know of any others because I found these things that other people couldn't even uncover. But all those facts are very interesting to tell the truth about this story.
Before we leave people today, John, what's the most shocking unknown that you uncovered about Gacy that people would be shocked to find out?
That there was no smell of death in the house when the detectives went in the house.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I found that interesting that when I interviewed Larry Finder, he basically said that they created the smell to get the second search warrant. That's the first time I had ever heard anyone say that on camera. That he said when the officer went in there, he said there was nothing wrong really. And that at first he just said, well, it smelled moldy and moldy. And from what I've read, Gacy's first wife said that it smelled like dead rats because of that first body, but then Gacy learned to put quicklime on it and cover it with concrete and bury it because he probably didn't bury it at that point or deep enough. Um, and, it took some, talking to the officer when, Larry Finder said, okay, but you worked at the morgue. What about that smell? Oh, yeah, it did kind of smell like that. So, I mean, and look, I don't hold the police accountable because they were investigating Gacy for 11 days. They pretty much knew what was going on at that point. So, there are critics out there. There's an attorney out there now that says, oh, they did the wrong thing. This is an injustice to people. Well, yeah, technically, yes. But I mean, if they made up all of that stuff and caught him and then, realized what he was doing, okay,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So, but I just found it interesting that, again, I wanted to tell the truth and this is what happened and that's how they got their man, but for 40 years, over 40 years, there was this myth of this stench in the house when, come on, there were parties in the house. There were people in the house.
Yeah.
Marty Zielinski, everyone just said it smelled moldy sometimes, only the first wife. So it's like, again, it's interesting stuff.
That's incredibly interesting. Well,
Yeah.
especially since, like you said, you had mentioned earlier in the program, he had cookouts. There were huge parties where he was providing a huge amount of food for people. The one thing that came up in my mind as I'm sitting and I'm watching it, you mentioned there's huge amounts of food. I automatically go to Ed Gein. I start thinking, is there people meeting there? I,
Exactly.
I was like, oh, he didn't go there, did he?
Oh, that would be interesting. But yeah, he did it. But man, that would be, yeah, that's more of a Geen or Dahmer thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's where my mind went because I automatically think, I mean, because the distance between Chicago and Wisconsin isn't that far, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I started thinking was sausage on the menu,
yeah, right.
but yeah, I went, ooh, but then I started seeing there were steaks, and I was like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
all right. So I didn't, but there were hamburgers, but I went,
I
no,
know, I know.
yeah, yeah. But then when they said they discovered whole bodies, I went, oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, that would have been disgusting because he did
yeah,
have a lot of people over there.
he did. Yeah, there were a lot of people to feed.
Yeah, I
Um,
think it would have been too much work. I think he would have got off on that. That would have been the ultimate thrill for him. But I probably for him was like, it would be too much work, cutting them up, cutting the pieces, too messy. Yeah.
Yeah, when you discover how much he was a neat freak, you go, okay, there's no
Yes.
way he ground up somebody and put it in the meat. Oh,
Yeah, that would be bad.
yeah, it just, yeah, that to me is just that's one of those. I can't
Yeah.
go there. I can't go there.
Oh
It's
yeah.
one of those I just can't go there. Uh,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't.
No, he didn't. Yeah, he did do that. But yeah, like I said, people were in the house. They didn't smell anything. So
Interesting, very
yeah.
interesting. And wasn't it he had mixed up lime with lye, wasn't it? Originally he wanted to go get lye, but he got lime.
No, the thing is the police reports later or the newspapers said it was lie, but it was lime. It wasn't lie. It was actually lime.
So
So it was just in the reporting later.
okay, so he did know what he was doing when he.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, he did. And there's a lot of myths like that out there too, and that's why I wanted to dispel them. And it's to me it's just a shame that Bill Kunkel passed. We still have Terry Sullivan,
Mhm.
but Bill Kunkel to me was kind of like the master of the case. Like I could call or email him about anything Gacy, and he would just talk for hours, and when he left a lot of that secret and information is gone, unfortunately. So
Uh, Although I tell you, you've unearthed a lot of stuff and some stuff that will shock people when they watch this. I mean, again, we've barely scratched 5% of what's in this, folks. You are going to be shocked, amazed. There's a lot of interesting stuff about John Wayne Gacy, the victims of John Wayne Gacy. The stories are interesting. They're heart wrenching. There's a lot of heart wrenching stories in this documentary. And there's some funny stories in this documentary, very much so. The John Wayne Gacy Murders, Life and Death in Chicago. Check it out on Amazon Prime. Also, if you go to John's website, we have a link in the description of this program. You can check it out there as well. John Borowski, I want to thank you so much for being with us here on True Crime Tuesday.
thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Pleasure's all mine. Pleasure's all mine. Folks, let's lighten things up a little bit. It's time now to bring in Jessica Freeburg. It's time now for Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals.
It's Crayon News story time.
What happened with this dude, Christ Bearer? I heard he cut his penis off and then jumped off a balcony.
Suspect pulls gun from butt, shoots twice at Denver police.
What is your emergency?
I need help.
And what's the problem?
I'm too high.
You're too high?
Yeah.
It's that time again, the time you all been looking forward to. It's time now for Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals. And for that, we need a co-host. So what I've done is I've drawn a name out of a hat. No, I'm kidding. I haven't done that at all. Of course not. We have a regular co-hostess. She's witty. She's intelligent. She's fascinating. That's right. In fact, People magazine has put her on the most fascinating authors list of 2024. I bet she doesn't even know she got that award yet. Let's bring her in right now, ladies and gentlemen. Here she is, Jessica Freeburg. Hi, Jess. How you doing?
Hey, Tim. I'm great. What an honor to be included in the list of fascinating people with people.
I know, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I bet you didn't even know you got that award, but you did.
I didn't. It's right up there with like the sexiest man alive, right?
Yeah, I know. What's up with that? How come they don't have a sexiest woman alive?
They should. Seriously, why don't they?
Right? Sexist. Just saying.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, why is there got to be a sexiest man alive and not a sexiest woman alive?
Maybe they feel like we'd be offended if they called us sexy. We'd be like, excuse me?
Why is it got to be all about sex appeal? How come not the brainiest woman alive?
You're going to be the smartest woman alive,
Right?
right?
Right. Yeah, how come there isn't the smartest woman alive?
I don't know. I like to be both smart and sexy if possible, please. Thank you.
Yeah. How about the total package of the most total package alive? Wait, that doesn't sound.
Yes.
That's like incorrect in English. I don't know.
The total packaginist alive.
Yeah,
I don't know.
something like that. Yeah, and then
Mine sounded worse. I think yours
Yeah,
is better.
worst grammar alive. Yeah, that should be an award or something. Yeah, words is hard today. Words is hard.
Yes, it is.
Reason being, it's New Year's Eve, so we've already started drinking. Yeah, here's that deal. Do you celebrate on the big New Year's Eve? Are you a New Year's Eve person?
Well, I celebrate every day because every day is glorious. But New Year's Eve, we're kind of boring. I mean, we're like the party house for kids. So we don't typically party ourselves. We're more like we hide in the bedroom or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, pardon me. Really? The kids are over? Wow, that's bold.
Yeah, it's not that exciting, Tim. But
Oh.
yeah, we hide out. We hide away, let's just say.
Oh, hiding what? It's another joke. It's a joke within a joke, Jeff. See what I did there? It's
How about you?
grown up joke. No, I don't do a thing. It's an old folks New Year's Eve around here. We struggle to stay awake until 10 o'clock watching
Yeah.
Dick Clark's Rockin' New Year's Eve with Ryan Seacrest. No, actually, I like to see how late I can take it every year. I like to see if I can make all the time zones. I know that's
Yeah.
a folks thing, isn't it? Yeah. I want to see the fireworks in Paris. Yeah, it's
I do not. I just want to go to bed. Honestly, like I'm such a workaholic. I'm usually like writing on New Year's Eve and like I'm not very fun, Tim, to be honest. I have
oh,
too much work to do. But my kids have fun, so that's important.
that's good. Yeah. No, I like to see all the newfangled bands that are playing on the shows.
Oh gosh, we were watching the ball, or not the ball drop, but the tree lighting ceremony. And I didn't recognize anyone. I'm like, I feel so old right now. I don't know who I think the Backstreet Boys might have been the only people I recognized. Like, I don't know who the rest of these people are. They're wonderful, but
Yeah, they're nice kids. No,
yeah.
I like to recognize the new kids, not the new kids on the block, but the new kids that are around. Yeah,
You got to keep up with stuff.
I do. Yeah, I do. I like the Wale and whoever else is on there, the Walleye or whoever's performing.
Is that a group? Walleye?
No, I'm
Oh, good.
no, I'm joking. Yeah, no, I I keep up with the popular music. Are you looking forward to Kendrick Lamar on the Super Bowl?
Oh, sure. That'll be great.
You're like, yeah, whoever he
Huh.
is. Yeah.
Whatever. I mean, I know who it is because my kids listen to it, so it's actually on my playlist, but
Yeah. Yeah.
don't ask me to sing a song from Kendrick Lamar because I could not.
Kendrick Lamar. Yeah.
Whatever his name is.
Yeah, that kid. Yeah.
I'm not cool.
Yeah. Well, I've got a few of his albums. Actually, I think I have
Do
all
you?
of them except for the latest one. I don't have the latest one because I've got Apple Music, so I can listen to it on demand. So,
Yeah. Do you have like when you say albums, you mean like actual records?
Jess, we don't have actual records anymore. It's all here. It's all on the phone.
No, my kids have records. My daughter is like all about the records. She has Taylor Swift
Vinyl?
records. Like it's come back. What was cool when we were cool is now cool again.
You know why I don't have vinyl? Because vinyl's $40 an album. That's why I don't
I
have.
know. It scratches.
Yeah. No, because you can download it for $9.99. That's
Yep.
yeah. I mean, if you want to support the artist, otherwise you have Apple Music. It's so much per month, and you can listen to the
They
album.
must get something from that, right? Though, I mean, like I had my whole playlist from Spotify of who my top people were, and there was even like a thank you from one of them, like a person, like not personal, but like a recording of
Yeah.
him like thanking everyone for listening to his music. I was like, they must get something for us listening.
It's very little on Spotify. I think per download, it's something like 0.12 cents per download. It's really bad. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it's really bad. It's not even.
it's probably similar to like people reading my books on Kindle or whatever, and like per page.
Yeah, it's bad. It's really bad. In fact, the whole reason that Snoop Dogg pulled all of Snoop Dogg, Snoop on a stoop. I'll keep him up through New Year's, on my microphone in case you guys are listening on audio and don't know what I'm talking about.
You're gonna keep Snoop up until New Year's. Okay.
Yeah, well, somebody has to keep him up. He's been smoking that much dope. The whole reason he pulled all of Death Row's library off of Spotify is he said they had something like 1 billion downloads of Death Row's music on Spotify, and it turned out to be only $100,000.
Oh, wow. That's bananas.
That's all he paid out. So he's like, nah, that's coming off.
Yeah, he's a shrewd businessman. Like
Yeah.
I actually saw him speak live at an NFT conference, and he is like really smart.
Oh yeah. Yeah. In fact, I was watching another interview where recently it was just a short, and he said they'd asked him what Dr. Dre thought when he first bought Death Row. He said he was angry at him because he didn't know what the plan was. And he said, why would you go back into the past to buy Death Row? I mean, it's nothing but heartache and pain, and it's just bringing up old memories. He said, no, I have a plan for this. He said, first of all, I want my masters. I want the masters of what we did, but then I want to bring it forward into the future, and I want to create new memories. And I have ideas for what we want to do with this property. So, and then once Dre saw what the plan was, Dre came back to me and said, where's my Death Row jacket? Right? He's like, I want Death Row clothing. So it's kind of cool. And now Snoop has a new album out, and 3/4 of it is produced by Dr. Dre. So
cool.
It's on Death Row. So it's kind of cool.
And he's everywhere, Tim. Like he was at the Olympics. Like,
yeah.
I feel like every time I turn on the TV, I'm like, what's Snoop Dogg doing with this thing?
He's on The Voice. But here's the thing, the new album, if you think you're going to get Grandpa Snoop on the new album, you don't. The new album is called Missionary, and it's the follow-up to 1993's Doggy Style. So yeah, it ain't Grandpa Snoop. You're getting the OG. You're getting Gangsta Snoop. So
I like it. I'm going to download that one.
Yeah. So that's it's good. It's a good album. So
see, why isn't Snoop doing the Super Bowl? I'd be like, yes.
Well, the whole reason being is that the Super Bowl is produced by Jay-Z and by Rock Nation. So and And actually, you haven't heard about the big controversy behind the Super Bowl this year?
No. Mm.
Oh, Jess, it's huge. So, okay. So in the rap community, we almost had bullets flying over this deal. No, I'm just kidding. It wasn't that bad. This actually ties into the whole dumb crime, stupid criminals thing.
Okay.
So Kendrick Lamar was given the Super Bowl early, right after it was announced that New Orleans was the site of the Super Bowl. So they said, okay, Kendrick Lamar is the halftime entertainment. Well, at the time, he had kind of recently won the rap war between him and Drake. So it was kind of like, yay, the winner. And not like there was a referee or anything, but
Right.
right. So Kendrick gets the Super Bowl, and that was kind of that was kind of his crowning of that winning of that rap war. Well, meanwhile, in the background, here's Lil Wayne, whose hometown is New Orleans. Well, Lil Wayne's got beef, a little bit of beef with Jay-Z, and Jay-Z's the one who kind of picked the halftime entertainment. So Lil Wayne goes public with this. I mean, light of day in the media going, what's wrong with me? How come I'm not the one who got picked? And he goes to social media and he's like, this is bullshit, blah, 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 blah. Hey, I should be the one who's doing the halftime show. But then again, he was never in the running.
Right.
He was never the guy. It was always Kendrick's gig. Right. And the idea is to take the artist who's got the most eyes on him. Keep in mind, Kendrick had the #1 song in the nation for most of the year. And he had the #1 album for most of the year. And then right before the end of the year, drops an album out of nowhere and boom, #1 downloaded album of the year, right? So really, he's deserving of the spot.
Right. He's a logical choice. I mean, my kids actually love him so much, and they actually got my mom listening to him. Like the last time we went over for family dinner, my mom was singing along. Like,
yep. Yeah.
It was funny.
And it really should be his spot, right?
Yeah. That'll be a good halftime show.
Yeah. And Lil Wayne is just yelling about it because, well, I'm from there. And so I should be the halftime show.
Yeah.
It'd be like, I'll give you a good example of why it's so out of pocket for Lil Wayne to be yelling about it. It'd be like if the Super Bowl were here in Minneapolis, right? And Morris Day and the Times started yelling about, well, we got to be the halftime show. Well, no. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's nice that you're from here. Congratulations. But the fact of the matter is there's probably a more popular halftime show.
Yeah, that's not how it works.
Yeah,
exactly.
That would do bigger ratings. So, and that the rest of the nation would want to see. Anyway, so we've gotten a little off topic, but it's kind of fascinating stuff to see how, that whole thing works in the background. So, and how they pick, how they pick that stuff and how people get kind of catty about stuff like that. So, because you never know, shots might get fired.
Yeah. And then we would be talking about it on Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals for sure.
That's right. That's right. You know what, Jess? The Christmas is strong this year. It's kind of floated over to this year. We still have Christmas stories.
Do we?
Yeah. Even into the new year or into New Year's. I'm surprised. We have a couple of police stories. Good cop, bad cop. To start off today's Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals.
All right, let's hear it.
And it turns out the good cop dressed as the Grinch.
Oh, that's cute.
It's kind of funny. We're going to start off in Peru to begin the program. By the way, we've got some interesting stories today. We have a little bit of an extended not safe for work, which one of the not safe for work stories involves Charles Barkley. So a little bit of a tease to the end of the program.
Oh, and you say it's extended, so now I'm worried. Okay, I'm going to brace myself.
It's okay. We have kind of a fun little palate cleanser at the end. So it's a double whammy palate cleanser at the end of the program. So stay tuned for that. But we'll start off with a Peruvian cop who dressed as the Grinch to lead a bust of a suspected drug gang. Kind of nice, right? A little Christmas spirit to bust up a drug gang. CNN News Central aired a crime story with a Christmas twist on Tuesday, showing a video clip of a police officer in Lima, Peru, who donned a Grinch costume to lead a drug bust. Anchor Kate Boldwan, reported on the story with evident glee in her voice. A Peruvian police officer got into the Christmas spirit, or maybe better said, utilized the Christmas spirit to fight crime, dressing up as the Grinch to lead a drug bust. Here is the scene, she went on to say. Oh my God, Baldwin chuckled as the cop, wearing a green furry costume along with a Santa suit, was shown running upstairs with a sledgehammer in hand, or paw, so to speak, to bust through a door. Not seen in the movies, Baldwin went on to say. The festive costume allowed the police officer to go unnoticed while mingling in a neighborhood for a Christmas event. Baldwin continued, and then led to this, a true life drug bust. The Grinch taking a sledgehammer to a door and handcuffing several suspects. Hard to do with those furry paws, but he did it. 3 suspects were arrested as a part of the operation, Baldwin reported, and multiple types of drugs were seized. And get this, guys, she said, this is not the first time Peruvian police have used costumes while conducting raids during the holiday season. In 2020, officers dressed as Santa Claus and an elf and arrested 4 people in another drug raid. People are going to be really suspect of people in costumes around the holiday season in Peru from now on, but still good job.
I love it. They never saw it coming.
Yeah. Well, and you wouldn't in Peru, I guess, if people were festive, right? Baldwin said before moving on to the next story, whoa, look at those drugs. I guess CNN News Central is pretty impressed by drug busts. So there you go. But there you go. A Peruvian cop who dressed as the Grinch to get their man.
It's definitely going undercover.
Boy, isn't it though, right? Now, my question is it the Jim Carrey Grinch or is it more the cartoon version, right?
Yeah, it's 2 different kinds. The Jim Carrey one's kind of wild.
I mean, that's the yak hair and that's really getting into it. That's 2.5 hours of makeup. I mean, or do you just go a little simpler and do you get the cartoon version and just put on the little, costume and take 5 minutes to do? I mean, are we really committed to the role? That's what I want to know. I don't know.
We need pictures and videos.
That's right. Pictures and videos. That's what we need. Now we get to the bad cop side of things, Jess. Neighbors say police killed a man after serving a warrant to the wrong home.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, sometimes police work goes wrong. We're going to Laurel County, Kentucky, where there are lots of questions surrounding the deadly shooting of a 61-year-old Laurel County man this week by London police officers who say they were here to serve a search warrant. I heard 5 shots, says a neighbor who does not want to be identified, probably because they know they're next. Just saying. Yeah. At least 5 shots. Woke me up. I was laying on the couch, said the neighbor. Neighbors are still in disbelief and looking for answers as to why London police were at the door of 61-year-old Doug Harless the night of December 23rd. One neighbor walked us through what they say happened that night. My wife looked out the back door and said, Doug's house is all lit up. I mean, not like bang, bang, all lit up, but lit up nonetheless.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. At that time, we had seen several cop cars up and down the road, and I contacted his daughter. She sent her husband out here to find out that her dad was deceased. The cops had shot him. Oh, that's sad. London cops say they were attempting to execute a search warrant at a home on Van Zant Road in Laurel County. In a press release, officers say Harless pointed a gun at officers, and that's when an officer opened fire. Harless died as a result. But now everything is breaking out. Whether the search warrant was for 489, which is right here on this corner, 2 doors down from Doug. They are looking for the guy that lives here in that house for a stolen weed eater. The man lost his life over a stolen weed eater, Jess.
Oh my gosh, what a waste. That's crazy.
Yeah. Neighbors say Harless was a victim, not a criminal. Carl Merritt and his wife lived just across the road and caught the shooting on their surveillance camera. Well, it shows on the camera that there were police officers on his porch and they announced that they were here, explained Merritt. They banged and banged and banged until they finally made their way around through the man's door. And with not even making it completely through the door, they shot him. I mean, it was just that quick. So
Why?
they barely
That's
got through and
crazy.
bang, bang. I saw another
Ugh.
surveillance video this past weekend, the same thing. I'm trying to remember where it was. But the cop had not even got through the door. Like he kicked the door in and automatically had he had his service weapon drawn. He hadn't even got to the door yet. I mean, he had already had the service weapon drawn, kicked the door in. I think it was here in Minneapolis.
Mm.
Had kicked the door in and was already firing before he was through the door. I mean, it was just, yeah.
That's great. I mean, I have deep respect for police officers. It is not an easy job, but they're not supposed to shoot at people unless there's an immediate threat, right?
Yeah,
Like,
unless
why
there's going
would
to
you
be a
shoot
threat.
this guy?
Right, right. Merritt says Kentucky State Police now have that surveillance footage. Family and friends of Harless, as well as the community, are looking for justice. He was a very quiet, humble person, says Merritt. Stayed to himself, never bothered anybody. For something like that to happen to that poor man, it hurts me really to think that somebody like that, especially in my backyard, being shot, in his own home. London Mayor Randall Weddle released this statement. The London City Police has released a statement, and my office will closely follow the investigation being conducted by the Kentucky State Police. My heart goes out to everyone affected by this incident. The family and friends of the individual remain in our thoughts and prayers, as well as the officers involved. I want to remind everyone that this is an open investigation, so I am limited in what I can say at this time. Let's allow the Kentucky State Police to thoroughly investigate the situation. So there you go. Our next story is kind of an unusual. I'm going to read the headline, and I want you to let this soak in for just a brief moment. Okay?
Okay.
The headline on this story goes like this, Jess. Portland demands something be done after a car crashes into a house for the 30th time and starts a gas fire.
Wow. The 30th time.
Car crashes into a house for the 30th time and starts a gas fire.
My brain is like, was it 30 times like back to back? Like, did this 30 times happen all in one day? Was it the same car? Was it 30 different cars?
Right.
What's happening, Tim?
The subheadline says you would think that they would have done something like 20 crashes ago. Right?
Yeah.
Let's get into the story and find out what the deal is here. As part of our belief that hitting people with your cars is bad, Jalopnik maintains that hitting houses with your cars is also bad. People live in houses and you should not hit them with your cars. Unfortunately, for apartment residents in one Portland, Oregon building, someone didn't get that memo and crashed into their house, starting a gas fire. As if that wasn't bad enough, though, KGW News reports that neighbors estimate that this is the 30th crash to occur in the property in the last 30 years. The Christmas Eve crash, yes, it took place on Christmas Eve, took place at about 11:15 p.m. The driver hit a gas meter, causing the gas line to ignite. Emergency responders were reportedly able to extinguish the flames quickly before there was much structural damage or active fires inside the 4-unit building. Yes, there's only 4 units to this building, so it's not that big. So it's a small target. It's just a magnet for cars, evidently.
It must be in just a terrible place, like the edge of a really surprising curve or something.
Dead man's curve. You just right into the building. Thankfully, there appear to be no serious injuries from the crash, as most of the residents were reportedly away for the holidays, thank God. Although firefighters did give oxygen to a cat that was later treated at a nearby animal hospital. This is like one Mad Lib, right? So the poor cat needed
Insert cat here.
Needed oxygen.
Oh, poor baby.
Next door neighbor Mike Powers said the crash sounded almost like a bomb went off and that it knocked out some of his third-story windows. He also said that he and his wife have recorded 29 other crashes that took place on the property in question over the 30 years that they've lived there. So it happens at least once a year. It's like setting your watch to it. It's like an anniversary thing. Honey, happy anniversary. Do you want to hang out the window and record the crash that's going to happen tonight?
I'd like to know the dates of all the crashes. Like, what's the correlation? Is there like a celebration and then they come around that curve and they're like, all drunk?
It probably happens on New Year's Eve. Now, in this time, the city has reportedly done little to deal with the drivers taking a nearby curve too fast. I think what's most important here is neighbors come together and organize around the intersection. Neighbors Nels Pearson told KGW News, I know people have been fighting long and hard to change the roadway design, and this is the moment we need to do it. Now, after 30 crashes is when we need to come together and change the roadway design, right?
30 is too many, Tim. That's one too many.
29, Jess, 29 we're okay with. 30, yep. God damn it, let's change it all.
Time to rethink this.
We're also inclined to agree that something needs to be done. That is simply too many crashes. He went on to say close to an average of one crash a year. Surely someone can do something about it. That's not a normal amount of crashing, right? No, it wasn't normal at 5 in 30 years.
I feel like one is shocking. Like 30?
Kids,
it's crazy.
30 in 30 years. You figure when the landlord has to come out and patch it up once a year, you think after 5 years he goes, I'm tired. You figure the insurance company would come out, and when they cancel the policy, that's the time when you change the roadway.
Yep. It's like flood insurance, only instead it's you're on a curve insurance.
Yeah, you're on a curve insurance. Yeah. I think we should do something about that. Well, if you think that was completely stupid, Jess, are you ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
When the school system has failed you, it's even worse. A Colorado suspect is wanted in an alleged failed bank robbery after handing the teller a note that was illegible. In other words, they couldn't read the damn note because your handwriting was that bad.
Wow.
That's what we get for typing.
Yep, and taking handwriting out of the curriculum. They don't even teach it anymore.
That's right. It's time to go back to cursive lessons, folks. You know that most kids these days can't read cursive?
No. We were just talking about this over Christmas. The kids were like Googling it and like sitting there practicing it because none of them have had it in school.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's really weird.
That's nuts. The employee, by the way, had a difficult time reading the memo allegedly passed by the man. That's too funny. A Colorado man allegedly attempted to rob a bank but left with nothing after handing a note to a teller who was unable to decipher what he had written, according to police. You would think, okay, you're standing there. You hand a note to a teller at a bank. It's not your deposit slip. It's not on a deposit slip. Nuts to bolts. You got to think that you're robbing the bank, right?
Got to be bad. Yeah.
Got to be bad. It's not, I got to go pee. Right?
Could be, can I have your phone number? Maybe they're too shy to ask.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. I never thought of that. Could be a dating note.
But that's probably not what it is. It's probably bad. It's probably a robbery.
It's probably a robbery. Probably a robbery. I didn't think about the dating angle.
Yeah. I think you're cute. XOXO.
Yeah. Would you date me? Check yes or no. I mean, that's the only other thing it's gonna be. It's the only other thing it's gonna be, right? What does this say? This is no, I'm not gonna go out with you.
I'm married. Come on.
I'm married. Can't you see the ring? The incident happened shortly after 5 p.m. or actually before 5 p.m. on December 17th at First National Bank. Oh, maybe she thought, you're going to give me a gift. Do I want a Christmas gift? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yeah. Shortly before 5 p.m. on December 17th at First National Bank at 750 North Lincoln Avenue in Loveland, Colorado, according to the Loveland Police Department. Police said the man walked into the bank and handed the teller a note. This is where the confusion began. The teller, however, had a difficult time reading the note since it was allegedly almost completely illegible, according to CBS Colorado. The man allegedly grew frustrated. Well, why didn't he communicate at that point? Can't you read English?
He was probably embarrassed.
Probably, yeah. He grew frustrated.
Now I just feel stupid.
Yeah. Now I just, forget it. Did he just do that and then walk away? He grew frustrated as the teller was struggling to read the note, so he quickly left the bank. He's like, oh, I'm just dumb anyway. And then he left. Police are still searching for the suspect. He left out of sheer embarrassment. The man was captured in surveillance images wearing a brown hoodie, green pants, a green baseball cap, sunglasses, and brown gloves. Actually, I have a picture of him here in his full embarrassment. This is what he looks like. He looks like I know how to write.
He looks like someone's grandpa who's like maybe a farmer. Like
he does, doesn't he?
I would, if he handed me a note and I couldn't read it, I would never think he was robbing me.
I wouldn't either. I'd look at him and I go, you want to clarify what this says?
I'd be like, is this your grocery list? Do you need help buying some groceries, sir?
Is this your Amazon list? You need me to type this in your phone for you? What is this? I don't. Is this what you need to take out of the bank? And he's like, yeah, this is bang, bang, robbery. Why couldn't he do this? Why couldn't he do this with his hand? Right?
Something. Oh gosh, that's crazy. And he really was so embarrassed. He just left.
Yeah, he just left. He's like,
that's the funniest part.
He's like, no, forget it. So here's my thing. So if they find him, does he really get charged with a crime?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. I'm just like in my brain, I'm just imagining the thought process as he's walking up there. Like he's all like, he had really psyched himself up to go do this, right? And then he gets up there and hands it to her and he's all fired up and then she can't read it and he's like, never mind.
You couldn't read my stuff anyway.
Forget it.
No. I was going to take $11,000, but you couldn't read it anyway.
I'm just going to go home and eat my frozen dinner.
I my peanut butter and jelly and just be quiet.
Watch Wheel of Fortune.
Watch Wheel of Fortune. Pat Sajak understand. Oh, it isn't even Pat Sajak anymore.
Ryan Seacrest now.
Ryan Seacrest now. Vanna understands me. What crime is there then?
Well, attempted robbery, maybe.
But they don't know that. They can't read the note. Maybe like you said.
Give it to an elementary school teacher. They'll tell you what it says. I can read anyone's handwriting.
You know who you give it to? You give it to a registered nurse. They can read anything.
Yeah.
They read doctor's handwriting.
Yep. Probably just as bad as the second graders.
That's right. That's right. Speaking of disruptive people, we're going to church. As a matter of fact, we're going to church on Christmas.
Well,
not that I am prying or anything, Jess, but did you go to church on Christmas?
We didn't go to church on Christmas, but we did go this Sunday. Does that count? And we still sang Christmas carols and such.
Yeah. We needed to go to church on Christmas. We played Cards Against Humanity.
Oh.
And we involved my soon-to-be 13-year-old nephew. And yeah, we needed Jesus at that point.
You guys needed to be dunked in holy water.
Oh, we needed to take a bath in it. It was bad. When you hear your father and your uncle say such filthy, awful things, and we played with an alternate set of cards, like the really filthy, raunchy, awful cards, the ones that you should gargle with holy water after you play with them. Yeah. That was bad. It was bad. It was horrible. I prayed to a lot of different saints after I was done with that card game.
Yeah. Well, nothing says happy birthday, baby Jesus. Like Raunchy card games with your family.
Yeah, yeah, on Christmas Eve. Yeah. Well, this man, he came in second place that day. He was arrested for disrupting Christmas church services by pouring whiskey into the holy water.
Oh,
Well, now, in all fairness, nothing dilutes a nice whiskey like holy water. I'm just saying. I don't know if you ever tried it, Jess, but it's magnifique. Just saying. But you got to get the right whiskey, though. Just saying that the swill, the regular swill, the Phillips, that no. Get a little Maker's Mark and holy water. Now you're talking.
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Now you're cooking with gas. A man in Maryland was arrested after he disrupted two churches' Christmas Eve services.
One.
Is this guy made out of money? Why is he dumping whiskey in two different church services?
Yeah, what a waste.
Right? Maybe he's like, Jesus needs to celebrate his birthday too. Woo! Oh. He disrupted two churches' Christmas Eve services, including pouring whiskey into the holy water. Well, God love you, sir. The St. Mary's County Sheriff's Office said 56-year-old Thomas Campbell Bowling von Getz entered. That's a name.
That is a name and a half.
Thomas Campbell Bowling von Getz entered the Holy Angels Catholic Church shortly after 5 p.m. on Christmas Eve during Mass. Oh, he looks like every central casting Nazi you've ever seen.
Oh, he's got a very devious look on his face too. The way his eyes, he's like looking up with his eyes, and he's got kind of a Cheshire cat smile going on.
Jessica, you will drink the whiskey in the holy water, and you will enjoy it.
No, I don't mind if I do.
You will cross yourself with the whiskey and water, and you will be very blessed. Ever tell you that one of my nephews, I won't say which one, was extremely afraid of falling in a holy water fountain?
Oh, really?
Yeah. For a minute, we thought he was possessed. I mean, like fearful. Like he was like,
Oh
what happens if I fall in that? Like, and we were like, you're extremely wet and extremely blessed. Why?
I've never seen them big enough to think I would fall into it. They're usually like.
Oh, there's one at I think it's St. Patrick's Catholic Church.
Okay.
Way north metro. Yeah, it's huge. It's like a huge circular fountain. It's
okay. Well, that might be scary.
Yeah. And you can walk up to it and you can, dip your fingers in it and, cross yourself.
You lay your hands on his forehead and say demon out.
Actually, intern Yoko took a little vial of holy water, made him hold on to it and see if he started burning up. It was clever. It was clever.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Just to be safe, just to be sure.
Yeah. Just to make sure that he wasn't, I thought it was clever. But yeah. But he had the look of the fear of the devil in his eye when he saw that huge fountain of holy water just, cascading. Because it comes up to the top and then it pours down. And
That sounds like a really fancy one.
It was beautiful. But he was like, the cartoon eyes and
so much holiness. I'm afraid.
I can't. It hurts my eyes. Yeah. But I don't know. Can't imagine what would happen if you put some whiskey in that deal. Deputy said he approached the altar, dropped an onion in the aisle. This guy did.
An onion?
I don't know. Is that a big thing among whiskey drinkers? You need an onion to chew on while you're.
Did he think he was like repelling vampires while he was at the church? Like onions and garlic and.
Maybe he got that mixed up. Onion with garlic. Oh.
Just running around town with an onion in your pocket for.
Oh, he does look like a Nazi. I'm just saying.
Okay.
Yeah, he was, which disturbed the peace of others attending. That would disturb the peace of everybody attending right there. A witness followed Von Getz as he exited the church to make sure he was leaving and saw him then assault another person by throwing tangerines. He brought the whole produce department of the supermarket with him.
God, he's like a salad shooter.
Yes. He had like a little produce gun with him, like a t-shirt gun at sporting events. Later that night, during midnight mass at St. Francis Xavier Catholic Church, Von Getz allegedly disrupted the service, pouring whiskey into the holy water and threatening to harm parishioners. As church attendees escorted him from the building, probably the smartest thing they did all night, deputies said he attempted to hit several individuals with a whiskey bottle. They were able to detain Von Getz until deputies arrived. He was then taken to a hospital for medical evaluation. Von Getz was arrested and charged with second-degree assault, disorderly conduct, defacing religious property, religious crime against a group, obstructing religious exercise, and threat of mass violence and disturbing the peace. So, not only that, but, I mean, basically ruining good produce. There's that deal.
Really?
Yeah.
That stuff is expensive.
Yeah. I mean, tangerines, onions.
I would have just started following that guy around and picking up what he left behind.
Right. And then making...
Including the whiskey.
Right. I mean, whiskey, tangerines, onions, you're halfway to a decent stir fry right there, as far as I know. I mean, that's all I know. The perfect excuse has been made, Jess, when you've been pulled over by police. File this one in your mental Rolodex in case you get pulled over sometime next year. A woman fueled by drugs damages multiple upstate properties. When they pull her over and say, ma'am, you need to step out of the car. We need you to walk that line. She says, oh, no. I'm too high for that.
At least she's honest.
Yeah. Hey, why not? That's a perfect excuse, if you ask me. No. I'm too high for that. We can skip that part. We go to Spartanburg County, South Carolina, where a Spartanburg County Sheriff's Office said a woman is facing several charges after multiple attempted burglaries. Aw, that's cute. Just after 1 p.m. on Friday, Spartanburg County deputies responded to a home on North Sweetwater Hills Drive in Moore, South Carolina, regarding an attempted burglary. Before arriving, the responding deputy was notified by dispatch that the homeowner was not home, but watched from her Ring camera as a woman attempted to break into her home. Upon arrival, the deputy did not see anyone outside the home, but did not notice that the garage door was damaged and pressed in. The deputy said it looked as if the garage door was hit by a vehicle. The damage caused a gap to form into the door, but the deputy said it did not look big enough for someone to fit through. A short time later, the victim arrived and let the authorities into the home. Deputies found no one inside and determined the break-in to be unsuccessful. Deputies said the surveillance video showed the woman banging on the door, screaming to let her inside, and she threatened to kill the homeowner multiple times.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. Surveillance video also picked up a white Chevy Malibu driving in front of the home around noon when the incident occurred. Deputies said after 3 p.m., another burglary was reported at a home on East Main Street in Duncan. The homeowner said after she returned home from work, she found that her home had been damaged and blood was smeared on various surfaces of the house. A window in front of the house and a window on the left side of the home were busted open. She found blood droplets on the ground and on the front door. A side door with stained glass windows was also busted in. A grill that was supposed to be sitting in front of the door was overturned and thrown out of the way. The glass on the side door was broken in a way that would allow someone to reach in and turn the handle, according to deputies. Under the porch, deputies said a crawl space cover had been removed and a pipe attached to the furnace of the home had been ripped out. The pipe was found laying on the ground nearby. Additionally, deputies observed a third door with blood smeared all over it on the back side of the house. Deputies then found an Amazon package that was ripped open on the porch. Well, Merry Christmas. The homeowner said the package was a pair of shoes, and deputies found one of the shoes still on the porch. So evidently there was no porch pirating going on.
She just wanted one of them.
Yeah, it's just one. The homeowner showed deputies the video of the incident from her security cameras, and authorities discovered it was the same woman as a prior incident that attempted to break in. In the video, the woman can be seen repeatedly slamming her body into the door while her arm is bleeding from busting out the windows. She sounds like a fine, upstanding citizen, doesn't she?
She sounds like a psycho.
It sounds like a member of the welcome wagon. According to deputies, the woman then returned to the back porch where she began ripping the entire porch from the house.
What?
That's some strong drugs.
Wow. Wonder what she was on.
In the video, boards can be heard breaking as she lifted the porch off the ground several times.
What kind of drugs give you Herculean strength like that? That's crazy.
Little PCP. Yep. The security video showed the incident occurred between 1 and 2 p.m., about an hour after the first burglary occurred. Now, around 2:30 p.m., a white Chevy Malibu was pulled over due to involvement in the burglaries and erratic driving at Reedville Road and Moore Duncan Highway. The woman was identified as 38-year-old Natalie Woodruff. She stated that she was tired after being awake for an entire week. That's right. She'd been up for a week, Jess.
Holy cow.
I think this is more meth than anything else now. When asked to conduct a field sobriety test, she became upset and asked deputies to check the trunk of her car for her children. That's right. Her children may be in the trunk, Jess.
Oh my God, Tim.
Deputies had already checked the trunk after she asked the first time. There, by the way, were no children in the trunk of her car, so don't worry about that. Woodruff told deputies she could not perform the test that they had asked her. When she was asked why, she told deputies, "I'm too high for that." But she could rip the porch off a house.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's freaking scary.
Yeah, it is. By the way, if you're wondering what Woodruff was on, she stated that she had been using crack cocaine and marijuana. You would think the marijuana would bring down the crack cocaine, but evidently the crack cocaine was a little stronger than the marijuana.
Wow.
She was placed under arrest for DUI and transported to the Spartanburg County Detention Center. By the way, if you want to know what someone who's on crack cocaine and marijuana looks like, take a look at Ms. Woodruff right there. That's what she looks
It's like, what are you looking at?
Yeah, she's like, ain't nobody got time for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what she looks like right there, Jess. Law enforcement said due to the woman's attempted break-ins and 2 prior convictions for burglaries, authorities would seek charges for 2 counts of first-degree burglary, theft, and 2 counts of destruction of property. WYFF News 4 reached out to deputies for surveillance video of the incident. The sheriff's office said the video cannot be released at this time due to pending charges. So, I think Ms. Woodruff was a little busy.
Yeah, she's a little crazy.
Have you ever been, I know you built a porch recently. Have you ever been so busy that you, or so messed up that you decided, let's rip that sucker off the house?
No, I can't even imagine.
Can you imagine what kind of strength it would take to rip it off the house?
Yeah, I mean, does crack make you crazy strong? That's nuts.
I guess if you got enough of it in you.
Yeah, and awake for a week? Oh my gosh.
She had quite a bit in her.
Wow.
For a week. Yeah. And then to say, oh, I put my kids in the trunk. You want to check and see if they're all right?
Yeah. So many things wrong with this. Then my brain is like, how is that fun for you? Like what? Like I remember in college drinking with my friends and we'd go dancing. It would loosen you up and you'd have fun. But like, how is it fun to get so high that you're awake for a freaking week and then your desire is to rip porches off of people's house or, put your arm through their windows and bleed all over everything.
Well, I think she's agitated at that point. I don't think it's fun anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't understand drugs.
Yeah.
But
I think we went past we're at the point of addiction and agitation. We're not at the point of fun anymore.
That's true, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where we're at with that. By the way, do you want cocaine bears? Because that's how you get cocaine bears, Jess. A backpack or backpacks containing $1.1 million of cocaine were discovered in the wilderness near Canada.
Oh, man.
And that's how you get cocaine bears. U.S. Customs and Border Protection agents were assigned to a region near the Canadian border in Washington and found 2 backpacks left out in the woods containing an estimated $1.1 million worth of cocaine. Oh, that can't end well. It just can't. The incident occurred when agents on patrol in the Blaine sector of Washington, approximately 110 miles north of Seattle, discovered 2 black backpacks weighing 78 pounds lying on the ground in a wooded area near the border in Lyndon, according to a statement from the U.S. Customs and Border Protection released on Monday. 78 pounds of coke, Jess, in 2 backpacks.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it is. And just think if the bears get into it.
Maybe that's what happened with the raccoon my son hit. He thought it was a beaver, but he was coming home the other night in the fog. He's like, all of a sudden, Mom, there's just this beaver running at me down the interstate. I just can't stop picturing it. I'm like, first of all, it was probably a raccoon. Like, it probably wasn't a beaver. They're not known to like stand upright and come running at you. But yeah, it's like, I can just see it just charging at him and Logan driving, and all of a sudden he's like, what?
At that point, it's not rabies anymore. It's got to be cocaine.
Yeah, it's a death wish.
When the agents looked inside, they found 30 brick-like packages containing a white powdery substance. The substance was later tested and determined to be coke. Yeah. So, if you're ever in Canada and looking for something that's snow, but not snow, but snow, look for a backpack.
Somebody's in big trouble, Tim.
I know, right?
That's a lot of coke to leave laying around outside.
That's right. That's right. Somebody owes a drug lord a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yep. By the way, that investigation is currently ongoing to figure out whose coke it is. I know someone's going to step forward and go, "Oh, by the way, did you find 2 black backpacks out there in the woods? It's this guy's." And I got to get it back to Pablo Escobar Jr. So,
yeah. I'd rather go to jail than be murdered by a drug lord, though.
Yeah. So if you can help me out there, I'd greatly appreciate it. Our next story is the most emailed sent story of the week.
Oh, cool.
People couldn't get enough of this. Maybe there's a bit of a guilty conscience here. I think a lot of people in our audience maybe are guilty of this next crime and are afraid of the repercussions.
I'm intrigued.
And maybe are going to start tipping their pizza drivers a little bit more after this next story.
Oh,
You know
I
what
think
I'm
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. A customer was stabbed over a delivery tip this last week. The violent attack prompted by a $2 tip on a $33.10 pizza and wings order. That's right, folks. Happened the day after Christmas. Who tips $2 on a $33 order?
And it's not the right kind of math.
That's the other thing that's disappeared in this country is math. I mean, well, people get cheap anyways. You know what it is because there's a delivery charge now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And most people go,
So people feel like they've already paid extra for it. But I don't know. I'm an over tipper. My husband always tells me I can't help myself. I'm like, they're making my dinner.
No,
they're bringing it to me.
Well, that's the thing is the people who make the dinner aren't necessarily, I mean, they're getting paid their separate wage. The people who are delivering it aren't getting squat. So you do have to tip, that's the thing. The people bringing it aren't getting paid squat. So you really do have to tip, folks. Angry that she only received a $2 tip on a $33.10 order of pizza and chicken wings, a delivery driver allegedly clocked out of work and returned later. Oh, guess where we're going for this one, Jess?
Florida?
Yes! She returned later that night to stab the female customer 14 times, according to Florida investigators. So wait a minute. That is 0.5 times for every dollar that you spent.
Good job on your math, Tim.
Well, at
That's
least
crazy though. It wasn't even like a crime of passion. She just wasn't like mad in the moment. She left and she thought about it and she came back. That's so crazy.
that's right. She's like, boy, am I going to stab the shit out of that guy who wouldn't give me a $2 tip. And actually, I know servers who would stab the shit out of you for not tipping properly. So,
No.
yeah. Cops say 22-year-old Brianna Alvello was working Sunday evening at Marco's Pizza. Is Marco's even good pizza? I think it might have had it once.
I've never had it, but it sounds akin to like Paul Revere pizza in Des Moines, which was not good.
Marco, well, have you seen the TV ads for Marco's? I mean,
I
it's
don't think so.
a national chain. So, but I've only had it once, and I think it was just It was. I mean, it's not impressive. It's just okay.
Definitely not getting worth stabbed over.
No, it's budget pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Domino's, kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Marco's is in Kissimmee, and she was dispatched around 10 p.m. to the nearby Riviera Motel to deliver food ordered by Melinda Irizarry, who's all of 26 years old. Irizarry, her boyfriend Bobby Brooks, and the couple's 5-year-old daughter were celebrating Brooks's birthday.
Oh,
Yeah,
she stabbed her in front of a kid.
I think so, yeah.
That's messed up.
As alleged in an arrest affidavit, when Irizarry handed over the $50 for the food, oh, so she had it to tip. That's even worse. Alvello began walking away with the money, and Melinda had to stop and ask her for change.
Well, I mean, $50 for $38. That's a pretty hefty tip.
33. So yeah,
yeah, that's a big tip.
that is a huge tip. Irizarry told cops she did not want to leave such a large tip. I get that, right?
Yeah, that's a lot.
So then take it to the office of the motel and break it for change. Don't hand her a $50 bill. I mean, you're staying in a motel.
Yeah.
Yeah. After rooting around for smaller bills, Irizarry and Brooks tipped Alvello $2. Melinda explained the female rolled her eyes and walked away without saying anything. Well, that's horrible.
But she would be back.
Oh, yeah. Police charged that Alvello and a male accomplice, both dressed in black and wearing face masks, showed up at the motel 90 minutes after the food delivery. Upon hearing a loud knocking, Irizarry opened the door and the two visitors burst in. The male intruder brandished a gun while the woman, whom cops later identified as Alvello, began rummaging through Irizarry's purse and the family's belongings and even smashed the child's Nintendo Switch. When Alvello pulled out a knife, Irizarry turned away to shield her daughter. That's when Alvello allegedly began striking Irizarry multiple times with the knife, according to cops. It was discovered Melinda was stabbed 14 times in different areas of her body and had just found out from the hospital that she was a few weeks pregnant.
My goodness.
Yeah, Irizarry was hospitalized in stable condition. A brief police probe identified Alvello as a suspect in the attack, with investigators stating that she became upset about the tip that she had received. Alvello was arrested on Monday, charged with attempted murder, aggravated assault, kidnapping, and home invasion with a firearm. Her male companion has not been identified. Alvello has been locked up without bond in the Osceola County Jail. By the way, this is what a pissed off pizza delivery driver looks like when you've only given them a $2 tip. There's no emotion on her face whatsoever.
No, but she just looks young, like a kid, like a 20-something, just
Yeah.
normal.
But
But
still,
she's not. She's clearly crazy.
yeah. Oh, yeah. She looks like, I mean, the lights aren't on. Let's just,
Yeah.
Yeah. Like she could give a shit. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a total sociopath.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what's going on. Let's see here. Let's go to our next story, Jess, where The quote here is, "There's someone with a sword in your parking lot." It's a brand new holiday edition, a brand new holiday tradition in Indianapolis, where an Indianapolis man was arrested after allegedly pulling out a machete at the Family Dollar. They call it Machete Swinging Day at the Family Dollar as a way of celebrating Jesus' birth.
Merry Christmas to all.
That's right. Because didn't the three wise men bring a machete to the birth of Jesus? I'm just saying.
They brought a lot of things, but I'm not sure they brought a machete.
I think it was frankincense, myrrh, and a machete, if I remember.
Yeah,
Yeah.
might have been.
Yeah, I think so. IMPD was dispatched on a report of a disturbance with a weapon at the Family Dollar on December 21st. We go to Indianapolis, where an Indianapolis man was arrested after allegedly pulling a machete out at a Family Dollar on the city's south side. According to court documents, IMPD was dispatched on a report of a disturbance with a weapon at the Family Dollar, located on Madison Avenue on December 21st, just before 4 p.m., because get it done before the dinner hour. You don't want to disturb anybody's dinner. I don't know what that means. When an officer arrived on the scene, he said he saw a man later identified as Charles Adams wearing a brown jacket, swinging a machete around, because you got to get your exercise in. It's either that or yoga. The officer said he saw Adams at the intersection of Stanley Avenue and East Troy Avenue, so he initiated his emergency lights and siren. The officer then got out of his vehicle and gave loud verbal commands for Adams to drop the weapon and sit on the sidewalk. You are totally going to mess up his cardio if you do that. I'm just saying. I mean,
Upper Body Day, Tim.
it is Upper Body Day, and that is horrible instructions. You wait for him to finish the 30 minutes, and then command him to drop the weapon. Court documents say Adams listened to the officer's command, of course, because it's a police officer after all. According to court documents, police spoke with the victim, who is a Family Dollar employee. Oh, he was just out there cutting out boxes, right?
He's doing his job.
Yeah, of course. I mean, who needs a box cutter when you got a machete? He said he was working inside the store when a customer walked in from the parking lot and said, "There's someone with a sword in your parking lot." The victim then walked outside and allegedly saw Adams in the parking lot with a machete. The victim told police that Adams was scaring the customers, so she told him to leave. That's when Adams allegedly lifted the machete, faced her with the weapon drawn, and said, "Shit, I'll use this on you."
Yikes.
Yeah. That's kind of what a guy with a machete will do, I guess.
Shit, I'll use this on you.
Yeah, I'll use this on you. Court documents say Adams then walked away and police were called, of course. Adams was arrested and charged with intimidation with a deadly weapon. It's the only deadly
I like
weapon.
how she walked away. She walked away or he walked away? Like,
He walked away. Like,
oh, okay. I just envisioned her being like, whatever, dude, and like walking away.
that's right. It's the only deadly weapon he has on him. Speaking of deadly weapons on you, it's time now for the Not Safe for Work part of our program. If you have kids in the room, well, lock them up in your trunk like that one woman in the one story. If you're at work, you probably want to, I shouldn't tell you to lock your kids in your trunk. If you have a boss in the area, put in your earbuds. It's time now for that segment. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, here we go. Our first story, Jess. Oh boy. Oh, daddy like for this first story. First of all, this is the first time I've ever wanted to go to prison.
Oh.
Yeah. Lock me up. Take me to jail.
Now I'm scared.
Are you ready for this headline?
Yeah.
Headline. A female prison officer was arrested after she was filmed having sex with an inmate.
Oh my.
Please. I'm going to show you the picture of this prison officer. She can do whatever she wants. I don't care.
Well, let's see her.
Wait, I'll read the story and then
Okay.
the big reveal. We build in layers on the show, Jess.
Oh, okay. All right.
We build in layers, right?
I'll try to be patient.
Like an onion at a Catholic church on Christmas Eve. We build in layers here, Jess. That's what we do. All right. A female prison officer has been arrested after allegedly being caught on camera having sex with an inmate. By the way, this story takes place in England. So
Okay.
she's got an accent on top of it, Jess.
Mm.
I'm leaving directly from the show and checking myself into this prison if she still has a job. Footage taken last week at the Category C5 Wells Jail in Wellingborough, Northamptonshire. I know I screwed that up. Reportedly shows the officer, speaking of being screwed up, shows the officer performing a sex act on the prisoner. Thank you, baby Jesus. The pair then have sex with the tattooed inmate filming the encounter. So she likes having a camera on her. Just saying. A spokesperson for the jail said a prison custody officer has been suspended. Damn it, she doesn't have the job anymore. And arrested by Northamptonshire police on suspicion of misconduct in a public office. It would be inappropriate to comment further while they investigate. You know what? You can comment. Just do it really slow, please, for me, if you would. Really slow and enunciate when you do so. Footage shows the blonde officer's trousers removed while her white shirt and security pass remain on. Cute. It's been circulated among convicts in the prison, which houses men who are considered a moderate risk. So really, I don't have to do much to get in, Jess. I mean, I don't have to commit much of a crime to get there.
Write a bad check or something.
Yeah, I'll just write a bad check. if I can find my checkbook. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen it, but I'll go find it. Concerns have been repeatedly been raised about the 235 million pound jail, with the most independent report saying issues are worsening. The Independent Monitoring Board said drugs are routinely available inside the jail, so we can get high and do it. I'm just saying, it's going to be a good time.
It's a party in there.
It really is. With at least 25% of the 1,700 prisoners randomly tested for illegal substances found to be positive. Right?
Crazy.
It's a good time. A source said the officer has risked everything to have sex with the inmate. She's a go-getter, Jess. I'm just saying. They told the Sun it is shocking, especially after the scandals at other prisons. They've got more than one prison where they do this over there.
Well, it wasn't that long ago that somebody was doing it for like their OnlyFans or something, right?
Right. Yeah.
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 It's a thing.
Yeah. I'm very Minnesotan right now. I'm trying to get her picture up. I didn't think I'd have problems getting it up, looking at her, but I right? Take a look at this, honey, right here.
Oh.
Huh?
Well, they should have never hired her to work in a men's prison to begin with.
Oh my God, right?
Oh, it just went blank, but I saw her. Yeah,
Did you see? Oh my gosh, yeah, it disappeared because I think.
All right, so what about the guy? Do they have a picture of the guy? Is he super hot too? Come on.
I don't know if they do or not. Let me I don't know why it disappeared off my screen. Probably because
what guy is worth risking your career for? He has to be hot and ripped like The Rock.
Do you think?
I don't know.
Maybe she's one of these. It's like, you know what? Maybe I just like an average schmo, like an average bald-headed fat schmo guy who has a podcast.
He's like an accountant who was put in prison for a Ponzi scheme or something. And she's
right.
Like, yes.
She's like, God, I'm so into, what is it called when she's into brains rather than brawn?
I don't know. That has an actual term?
Yeah, there's an actual term.
Okay.
Ladies who are into guys who have brains.
I mean, I would call her a smart lady.
No, it's a something file. It's a
oh, okay. A money file?
Not a money. No.
A brain file?
Not a brain file. It's a gosh, now I might
have to Google it.
Yeah, you might have to Google it. Yeah, it's but it's an actual obsession. It's a now see, you got me I'm all flustered looking at her picture here.
I think she got you all flustered. Don't blame me.
I'm all, hey now. But I'm just thinking, you know, what do you got to do to attract a prison guard like that? I mean,
I think it's called a sapiophile.
that's it.
You're
Sapiophile.
welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, a sapiophile.
Yes, a sapiophile. So yes, she's a sapiophile. I think that's what she's into, right? So I think that's her gig. That's her deal. So yeah. So I think that I got her picture back. Thank you, baby.
Screenshot it so you can save it for later, Tim.
I'm going to find out how I can contact her. The female warder is being incredibly stupid. I don't think so. She has risked everything and is being reported to bosses, so her career is effectively over. So she's going to need a new career, Jess.
I think she could start her own OnlyFans page. I mean, you'd pay for it.
You're damn right there. I know they're called screws, but you can't be sleeping with prisoners in your prison, and definitely shouldn't do it on camera, says one prison official. I know they're called screws, but you should
call prisoners screws.
No, you call prison guards screws.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Northampton police said a 19-year-old woman has been arrested by North Hampshire police on suspicion of misconduct in a public office. This is a live investigation, and as such, we can make no further comment at this time. It comes after another female prison guard, again, at Five Wells, had a prisoner's baby. Yeah. I know. They're just getting it on over there.
So these girls are like, hey, I know a great place to meet guys.
At the prison.
I'll give you a referral.
Yeah. Rachel Stanton's affair with Edwin Poole, who was jailed for armed robbery, was discovered after staff found intimate photographs of the pair in his cell. Oh, he just took souvenirs and kept them. This cannot be her. CCTV footage also captured the couple going into a prison storeroom for an hour of intimacy. This cannot be her. Look at her.
What are all these hot women doing working at this prison?
I don't know, but I want to meet the guy hiring these women.
Exactly. I feel like this is like a reality show.
Right?
It's like Love Island, but lockup style.
This woman was filmed having sex with inmate Linton Wyrick. Linda D'Souza Abreu caused a sensation after she admitted into having sex with an inmate inside HMP Wandsworth. The pair's encounter went viral after D'Souza Abreu, who is married, was filmed having sex with inmate 36-year-old Linton Wyrick in June as her radio crackled with messages in the background. His cellmate records the encounter with his phone, saying, "This is how we roll in Wandsworth." Piles of clothes can be seen heaped over a bunk bed inside the cell. Evidently, it pays to be a prisoner in England.
That's wild.
By the way, this is Rachel Stanton again, but for those of you watching on video, I'm just saying.
I mean, but she's 19. She's like a kid. It's okay, Tim. She's still hot. You can lust after her.
Yeah, boy. Yeah.
You have permission.
Thanks.
Oh, that's crazy. Well, so you could just write a poorly written note to a teller at a bank.
Yeah.
And just hang out, stand around, get arrested.
Yep.
Here's your crime.
Here's my crime. Yeah. And then there I go. And then if I go but I got to do it in England. And then I go in and then, then I'm banging my brains out, evidently. That's how it works. I mean, it's a perfect crime, right? Three hots, a cot, and a thought, I mean, that's how it works.
Oh my.
Oh, boy. Well, evidently here's one crime, and this is the last story of Dumb Crime Stupid Criminals today. And it goes like this, Jess. By the way, do you have W Plus?
No, I don't.
Walmart delivery service. This is a different way to get your groceries delivered from W Plus.
Oh, nice.
A Walmart driver pleasured himself in a woman's driveway after the grocery delivery.
Oh, ick.
That's a different kind of tip. I'm just saying.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like, well, here's your groceries and here's the meat. Thank you very much. Good night, everyone. Yeah. We go to Horry County, South Carolina. It's kind of an ironic city.
Horry County.
Horry County, where a woman has filed a lawsuit in South Carolina alleging that she caught a Walmart delivery driver pleasuring himself inside his vehicle in her driveway after dropping off her groceries. The woman identified as Jane Doe in the complaint to protect her identity filed the lawsuit on December 19th in Horry County Common Pleas Court. It names Walmart Incorporated, doing business as Spark Delivery, Walmart Stores East, and the driver, Alvin B. Ortiz. The alleged incident happened on July 8th at the woman's home in Myrtle Beach area. 39-year-old Ortiz was arrested on July 9th and charged with indecent exposure, according to the lawsuit. He was released on bond the following day, and the case is still pending, according to court records. Ortiz dropped off a delivery order at the woman's front door at about 9:10 a.m. Well, rise and shine. According to the lawsuit, he walked back to his car in her driveway after finishing the delivery and remained there for 10 to 15 minutes, prompting the woman to go out to his car and see why he was still there. Oh, I bet you found out, didn't you? As she approached the car, the lawsuit claims the woman saw Ortiz with his pants pulled down and pleasuring himself.
What
Now,
would you
Jess,
do?
Well, I probably wouldn't spook him, one. I mean, that's probably not the first thing I'd do. Two, I don't know that I'd call the cops. Do you let him finish and drive off? I mean, what do you do?
No, Tim, you don't. You just call the cops. I would call the cops.
Yeah, that's what you do. You get on the horn and.
Yeah, it's nasty. Don't do that. There's something wrong with you.
I
Not you, but anyone who would do that. There's something deviant with that person.
I mean, the man works hard. I'm sure he doesn't get many breaks with Walmart. I'm sure it's a tough job.
I guess.
I don't know what I'd do, to be honest with you. I'd probably run in my house and scream. I don't know.
I mean, honestly, I would probably knock on the window and be like, get the F out of here. Before I come back out with a pistol.
Be one of these. Zip it up. Zip it up. There's children in this neighborhood. Chomo. I'd probably go all what's his name? The former bouncer for Jerry Springer, Steve.
Oh yeah.
Let me get all on him. Drag him out of his vehicle with his pants around his ankles. What do you think you're doing? There's children in the neighborhood.
We were just talking about this the other day, though. I do have this tendency to think that I'm a big burly man in situations where I should not be running after danger. Like in college, there was a guy abusing his girlfriend outside my apartment, and he was a big football player dude. And next thing my husband boyfriend at the time knew, I was down in the parking lot yelling at him.
Well, nothing wrong with that. I mean, someone's got to do it, right?
Yeah, I thought so. I'm like, I called the cops. Get out of here.
And chances are, I mean, guys like that are fucking weenies anyways. Pardon my language. I mean, we're in not safe for work territory anyways, but they're fucking weenies anyways.
Yeah.
A lot of times when somebody stands up to them, they don't know what to do.
Just a tiny little woman came out yelling at him.
Yeah.
He left.
Yeah, exactly.
I must look intimidating.
Well, what it is they're being called out. So when they're being called out publicly, then they know that there's attention on them. That if you've seen it, then other people have seen it and they're about to respond.
Yeah.
So they get them out of there. I mean,
well, then the other incident we were talking about when my mom got in a road rage with someone, they were intoxicated, and my mom just blew the horn at them to basically wake them up. They had passed out at a stoplight or something. Yeah. We didn't realize what was happening until he followed us. He chased us into the parking lot where we were going, and he blocked us in. And then he was yelling at us through the window. And my mom she was so scared. And I saw my mom scared. So I was pissed. The next thing I knew, I jumped out of the car and I got over to him and I was like, get out of that car. I'm going to kick your ass.
Yes. Yeah.
My mom's like, he's going to beat you up. I'm like, no, he's not. Look at him. He's all drunk and scrawny. I could totally take him. But then the cops came and they took him.
No, I carry a bat in my van for that reason. But
they actually chased him and like body slammed him. It was the wildest thing I've ever seen. I was like, that's not fair. That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, exactly. Do you carry anything in your car for such an occasion or no?
No, because I'm so calm and peaceful. I never think about fighting until like there's something happening and I'm like, you just made my mom cry.
Now I'm going to kill you with my death grip. See, I've got a Louisville Slugger in my van, so.
Well, that's sweet.
Yeah, and I think it's a 9-iron. It's a Jack Nicholson solution. I know that. Yeah, so just in case. But there's that. Where were we? Oh yes, Mr. Ortiz choking the chicken in the middle of somebody's delivery driveway. Yes. The alleged incident happened on July 8th at the woman's home in the Myrtle Beach area. 39-year-old Ortiz was arrested on July 9th, charged with indecent exposure. He was released on bond the following day, and the case is still pending. Ortiz dropped off the delivery order at the woman's front door at 9:10 a.m. According to the lawsuit, he walked back to his car in her driveway. After finishing the delivery, he finished himself off and remained there for about 10 to 15 minutes, prompting the woman to go out to his car and see why he was still there. As she approached the car, the lawsuit claims the woman saw Ortiz with his pants pulled down and pleasuring himself. The woman said she ran back to her home and grabbed her young child to hide before calling a neighbor whom she knew was home. Well, he wasn't brandishing a weapon.
Well, kind of, Tim.
Well, he kind of had a weapon in his hand.
Depends on how big it was.
It was a tiny little 22, I'm sure. It wasn't a big weapon. Her neighbor came out and confronted Ortiz, the lawsuit said, adding that Ortiz rushed to pull up his pants. He then began arguing with the neighbor before driving away. What are you arguing about? You got caught. He's probably embarrassed. That's what it was.
Just quickly drive away.
Yeah, just get the fuck out of there, right? Yelling out of his window that he was coming back to F everyone up.
Oh, no, that's so scary.
Yeah, time out. You are in the wrong, sir. Just get the hell out of there. You're probably going to get fired, right?
Yeah.
Because they're going to trace back the order. And you're the driver of record. You get rated on all this stuff. So you're going to get caught, okay? You're probably going to lose your job. That's just how there is.
I mean, I would hope so. That is some deviant, weird behavior.
Right. The lawsuit said the woman then called police, who in turn contacted the Walmart where Ortiz worked. He was arrested the following day. The lawsuit alleges that Walmart failed to appropriately do background checks to ensure Ortiz's suitability for the position. It also claims that Walmart is liable for acts and omissions of its employees who are working and acting for the company. The lawsuit claims the woman has suffered injuries and damage, including past and future mental pain and suffering, mental, emotional, and psychological damage, and loss of enjoyment of life. She is seeking...
A little extreme.
Yeah, come on. It's a cock-a-doodle-doo. You'll be okay, right? She's seeking a jury award for past and future medical expenses. He didn't hit you in the head with it. I mean, you didn't catch a stray in the eye. You're okay.
I mean, she has a child. She's seen one before, right? I mean, this isn't like...
Yeah. I think we're going a little far here. Walmart told WBTW on Thursday it was reviewing the complaint. The safety of our associates and customers is always a top priority. We are reviewing the complaint. We'll respond appropriately to the court. I have a feeling this is going to get settled out of court. What's funny is the picture below the article, which is just an old woman in her car. You don't know.
Not to be confused with the Walmart delivery driver.
Yeah. You hope she doesn't do anything in her car. I'm just saying. But yeah, so there you go. All right. So we have a bit of a mixed bag as far as a palate cleanser. This first story is not cleansing anyone's palate.
Great.
It took place in a Texas neighborhood over Christmas where they claimed there was a gigantic fart smell all over this particular town.
Ew.
Well, here's what happened. In a nutshell, we go to Travis County, Texas, where many people enjoy the smells of Christmas dinner, of course. Residents in the Austin area neighborhood of Lake Point feared their meal would be ruined by fart smells that can make your eyes water. For years, around 70 homes in the West Travis County neighborhood have dealt with a wastewater treatment plant built just yards from their back doors, so to speak.
Oh, no.
There have been many days when it's impossible to be outside. It feels unsafe. It's like the smell is so strong and so gross that, like, it's really unpleasant, said Amanda Wilton Green, a Lake Point resident who lives a few yards from the plant. Issues at the plant, including busted pipes and broken machinery, have grown more frequent at the facility near the end of its life. With each incident, the smell of sewage fills the air. Well, Merry Christmas to you all, and to all a good night. Well, the people in charge of the plant are quick to address issues as they occur. Neighbors are desperate for a timeline that will see the removal of the plant from their neighborhood. What's interesting about this next part, Jess, is there's a little headline that says, "This green fog descends," as in on the neighborhood.
Oh, nasty.
The neighborhood is an active one. An elementary school is just down the street from the plant, and it buzzes with activity. People push strollers down the sidewalk. Kids enjoy the winter break and fill a nearby park, as opposed to what's filling the neighborhood. Walton Green says when the smell is bad, she and other neighbors can't go outside. She avoids walking her dog, and that nearby park, recently renovated, empties of children. So evidently they don't want to play in the fog.
No. Ick.
This little plant is like the little engine that could, said Pat Sinnott, who is president of the Lake Point HOA. According to Sinnott, the wastewater treatment plant was built in the 1990s alongside the neighborhood. The area, that's it, the 1990s, it's not that old. The area it was built on was designated for parkland and runs alongside a wildlife preserve. The plant was originally meant to just provide service to the Lake Point neighborhood. However, plans changed, and now homes surround the wastewater treatment plant on 3 sides, so it's over-servicing. It wound up also bringing in commercial waste from all of the, like, H-E-B grocery store and the Galleria or the mall and other places around, plus some other neighborhoods. So really, it was not meant for something like this. In the mid-2000s, the owner of the plant, the Lower Colorado River Authority, sold the plant to the newly established West Travis County Public Utility Agency. Senate said that PUA inherited a mess. So again, you've got mess upon mess upon mess. So to make a long story longer, they're looking for a solution to everything. They claim that a new plant is scheduled for completion in 2027. That plant is closer to Bee Cave and will take over duties of the current plant, so there's no duty in the streets, so to speak. The current plant will then become a lift station that will carry waste to the new plant. However, according to someone there, permitting design modifications and staffing changes have led to delays with the new plant, so the smell of the town will linger in the air for a little while at least.
Boy, icky.
Yep. Our other palate cleanser is a bit more palatable to the senses. It turns out that Gallatin County, Montana is the drunkest county in America.
No.
So there's some spirits this holiday season.
They're a party.
Yeah, and on this New Year's Eve, it turns out that they will be drunk on New Year's Eve. A new CDC study shows that 27% of people who live in Gallatin County, Montana, drink to excess, Jess, making it the drunkest county in America. Nearby Teton County in Wyoming isn't far behind, dubbed the booziest in the cowboy state. It turns out that this first part is very funny. Joshua Schomburger, a.k.a. Captain White Claw, he's given himself that nickname, by the way.
Okay.
Decided to create his superhero alter ego after the Hungry Moose store in Big Sky emerged a few years ago as the leading seller of the popular hard seltzer. He says it was like the #1 seller of White Claw per capita in the universe. I thought that was funny, so I made the suit. Yes, he has a suit that he.
Oh my.
Schomburger, who hesitated before providing his real name, said it's like a Bruce Wayne thing. Yes, he actually goes around in a suit and calls himself
Wow.
Captain
What a tool.
Yeah, there you go. Dressed in a cape, neon yellow ski onesie, and equipped with a Batman-style utility belt for holding several cans of White Claw. He doesn't go anywhere without it. Schomburger wasn't surprised to learn that Gallatin County, where he lives and works at the Hungry Moose, recently received the dubious distinction of being the drunkest county in America, according to data compiled by the CDC.
That's legit.
That is legit. Schomburger apologized for arriving on the slopes at Big Sky Resort on December 20th without his superhero shield. Yes, he has a shield to back all that up. He said, I forgot it back at base, but we had to get here early, said Schomburger, who prefers blackberry White Claws to heavier on-slope beverages like beer or spiked hot chocolate. Cowboy State Daily quizzed several Montanans about why Gallatin County, with nearly 27% of residents drinking to excess, beat out counties that are home to the biggest college towns in New England, the most scantily clad spring break destinations in Florida, and every county in Wisconsin, which you think would be the drunkest, right?
That's really saying something.
Now, theories varied, but like nearby Teton County, Wyoming, Gallatin County is a vacation destination for people who intentionally avoid Utah, home of the soberest counties. So there you go. They go over to Gallatin to get their squeal on.
I guess that makes sense.
Yep. It's a place with an ingrained drinking culture, but overall, the population growth is slowing in Gallatin County, and that could cause it to relinquish the excessive drinking crown. So, Gallatin County, Wyoming, 27% of the population is drunk.
And it's home to a superhero.
Yes, Captain White Claw. That's
I bet that guy's single.
Oh, I believe he is. Yeah. And probably sterile on top of it. So, yeah. Ladies, feel free. I mean, I don't know that you want to take the chances, but, you know,
he's available. Yeah.
Feel free to ride that baloney pony without any restrictions. Just saying. And that's your palate cleanser for Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals. Just
that's a good one.
Yeah. So that's it for Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals today. Jess, what do you have to add to the program today? What's going on over on your side of the world?
Oh, we do have our event coming up this weekend. I mean, if you last minute wanted to come, there might be a couple rooms available yet. Not entirely sure, but you could call and find out. At the Palmer House this weekend, starting Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and ending on Sunday. And otherwise, just a couple books out there if you want to read books.
All right. Check out jessicafreeburg.com. We have a link in the description of this program. It's a manifestation event this weekend. So if you're looking to manifest something for the new year, by all means, please check out the Palmer House this weekend. If there's a spot, there's no guarantee.
Yeah.
So check it out. You can also call the Palmer House ahead of time this weekend. Also, Jess has 3 wonderful books that are available for sale. We have a link to her website in the description of this program. Check out those books as well. Tomorrow on the big show, Supernatural News. So we're going to go in order this week. Supernatural News tomorrow on the big show. Thursday, even though tomorrow is the anniversary of the show, we're going to hold it over one day to the next day. We're going to do the anniversary show on Thursday. So there you go.
Exciting.
There's a potential surprise on Thursday. I'm not quite sure yet. Still working on it. But there might be a potential surprise on Thursday for the anniversary show. So there you go. But that'll do it for today. For Jessica Freeburg, I'm Tim Dennis. Thank you so much for joining us today for the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday.
For more audio and video archives of True Crime Tuesday, intriguing content, and cool swag, please visit darknessradioshow.com. Thanks for watching, and join us tomorrow for Supernatural News with Jessica Freeburg.